Hi there. How's everyone doing? Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Ed. Morning, Dorothy. Hi, Ann.
Morning.
All right. Hi, Susan. Nice to have you in class today.
Thank you.
There's Peggy. Hey, Dorothy. All right. How's it going? While we wait for everyone to make it in, did anyone try anything at all fun with Photoshop that you might want to share? Any Photoshop adventure that you might want to tell us about? I know it's kind of early for those of you who haven't used Photoshop much yet, but good or bad?
I'm trying to stack a 240 image thing in it and work with it. So
Okay.
there's a method for using doing long exposure pictures without an ND filter, and I'm testing it because I'm going on that trip. And I hate carrying filters, to be honest. So it hasn't worked out well yet. It's not Photoshop's fault. It just hadn't worked out well yet.
So you're trying to say that again. You're going on a
So
trip.
what you do is you go and you set on tripod stuff, and you determine based on some math how long your exposure should be. So let's say it's going to be 4 seconds, and at the aperture you've got and the shutter speed you've got, that means you have to shoot 250 shots. Okay.
Okay.
And then you shoot those 250 shots, you go back and dump them into Photoshop in a stack, and then you bring them together, and it gives you the effect of a long exposure on water. So it blurs the water, in this case equivalent to about a 3-second shot, but it's 250 shots. And I don't know that it's worth it, to be honest. I'm just playing around with it. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube about shooting without ND filters.
It's interesting. I have actually read about it, and it was never occurred to me to try it. It's not my area of interest. So I would really love to hear from you how it goes once you do that.
We'll see, but I've got ND filters and polarizers, and and I'm thinking now it's easier to put that on than it is to shoot 250 shots.
Well, yeah, and then to deal with them later. But no, the other day I was showing my son all my filters, and he's like, "What? Why do you even need that anymore?" And I'm like, "Well, no, you need to understand. You can't always manipulate." It's like, yes, you can. It's like such a different life that we've been handed. Those of us used to work with film, and now digital handles things. And
my next project is to try a HDR panel, which is one of the new features in Photoshop. And,
all right, give me a second here, guys. Everyone go to the chat, remember, and sign in, give a little hi or something so that your name appears registered for me. It's one of the ways that later I can check out attendance. So welcome everyone else who is signing in. Hi, Isabel. How everyone who has joined us. Joyce, how are you doing? All right. Hey, Scott. All right, so just as a quick check-in here, Susan, were you able to check in with the videos and catch up with some of the intricacies of how to follow along with the class? You said that you had your own account, well, the school's account, right? And you said you had used it a little bit, so hopefully did you download the photos? That's the main question.
I downloaded the photos. I have them ready to open when we get to that point.
Okay,
and
great.
I watched the first class meeting.
All right, and did you have awesome, did you have Bridge set up too?
I found the photos. I didn't open them in Bridge, I don't think. I just navigated to them.
All right, so we're going to be using Bridge as part of our part of Photoshop is Bridge. When you want to work with raw photos, and I'm talking to everyone now, you want to work with raw photos in Photoshop, you need Bridge. Bridge is actually like, companion to Photoshop, and we're going to be working with raw photos quite a bit. So go ahead, as we have a chance here to speaking and stuff, if you can connect to the Creative Cloud and download it, that would it's going to be part of the class. Okay. Today, until that's done, until you set it up, which it might take, few minutes or half an hour, who knows, you can work without it. But Isabel, how about you?
Have it. I just opened it. So I have
Oh,
Bridge as well.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Isabel, and hey, Leland, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again too, Diana.
Yeah. How's everyone done? I just want a reminder of who's going to be, oh no. Hold on. My computer's doing this nasty thing it does where it's running out of memory. 1 second. I need to close. I have Rogue backup. Give me 1 second. That now and then starts up and completely stops my whole processing. And right now, if that happens, my computer's about to crash. So give me 1 second. This Backblaze is taking up all my memory that I'm trying to fix, and let me get rid of that and that and that. Okay, my computer will not die on me at this point now. Cool. All right. Sorry about that. Got distracted for a second when I got a nasty warning here. Where was I? I was trying to check in with everyone having signed in, having their photos. Do y'all have your photos either? Oh, this is what I was asking. Who's going to be on VDI? Okay, Isabel, yeah, I had asked you. So tell me.
I will be able, I did able to get in, log in, and then I was doing the same thing we did last class with the picture, but something happened, just disappeared. I don't know what I did. So I just closed it open, and then it says something about being disturbed. So I don't know. I've just stopped
About
there.
being what?
The picture being disturbed, and then I don't know what else. You want me to?
No, it's probably, did you sign into the Google Drive anew? Did you do a new sign into the Google Drive?
Yes, I did, but it's still the same. So I didn't do, I don't know what I did or what.
Okay.
I couldn't even open it for Bridge, so I couldn't open another picture. So something happened. I don't know what.
Okay, so then go ahead and share your screen with me so I can figure out what happened. Meanwhile, I just want a show of hands. Who's going to be on VDI? Hi, Barbara.
Hi, I'm trying to get computers.
So Barbara, you need to disconnect the sound from one of your two monitor or computers. So choose one of them, whichever it might be, and then head down to the Zoom. At the very bottom left, you see the little mute button, the one that looks like a little microphone. Okay, click on that little tiny arrow that's to the right of it, of that little mute button, because then there'll be a menu that'll come up, and you need to go up to the audio set to leave computer audio, just from one of the two of them, and then have the sound on one of them. Okay, because otherwise we have that echo that becomes really hard to listen to. Do you know where what I'm talking about, where to go? So your sound is off, so you need to turn the sound on so I can hear you.
It opened up another box.
Okay, so when you go to that mute button and you click on that arrow, you should have a series of things like select a microphone, select a speaker, and actually bottom up, it says audio settings, and then right above that, it says leave computer audio. So click on leave computer audio from the one that you're on right now, because it's not about turning it off or muting it. It's completely not having audio on one of the two, and then turn the sound on your other one.
I'm trying to find that.
Okay. Tell me where you are. Describe to me what you're looking at so I can.
Black box that says settings and speaker, test speaker, use separate
Okay.
audio.
Okay, go all the way to the bottom of that. What's the last thing that whole box says?
Oh,
Does it say-
full bar. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Press
The
and
very,
mute my mic, automatically join.
No, so that's not where you're not in the right place if those are the things you're reading. Okay, so are you looking at the very farthest left icon on your Zoom, the one that says mute?
All the way on the bottom, there's a microphone and a video camera on the
Yeah,
bottom.
so, yeah, perfect. So right next to the microphone, there's a tiny little arrow
That's-
pointing upwards.
That's what I
Okay.
clicked.
Okay, so the bottommost choice there is audio settings. Do you see that? Of that whole box? And do you see the word
No,
audio setting?
It's sync buttons and advanced.
Okay, you don't see one that says leave computer audio. Are you on a computer that you're talking to me, or are you on an iPad, or what are you?
A MacBook Pro laptop and
Okay.
brand new Mac.
Ooh, nice. Okay, so, but I see if you're not seeing audio settings there, I'm not sure what you're looking at. Maybe you're on the stop video settings. No. So go to the other one. You have two connections there and see if you can see it on that one. What you are reading doesn't seem to be what you should be reading in that one. You don't see leave computer audio
Oh,
anywhere.
wait, recording or no? Accessibility,
No.
maybe?
No, if you're looking at the little tiny arrow next to the microphone, those settings that you're reading don't seem to be the right settings unless you have a very different version of Zoom, very different. Go to your other computer, the one that's off, and see if you see these words there.
Okay, this meeting is being recorded. Yeah, I've got it over here. This one's muted, but if I click on the arrow,
Yeah,
same as system, iMac microphone, same as system, iMac test.
yeah, so keep going down, 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 keep
With
reading further down, and one of
Audio
the
settings
bottom,
here.
okay.
This has the same box.
Yes, okay, so, no, okay, so you read audio settings, okay, what's the setting right above audio settings? Right above audio settings. Sorry, guys, we'll be there in a minute.
Leave
Barbara's joining
computer-
us.
Oh, leave computer.
There you
audio.
go.
Okay,
Leave
let me
computer
see if
audio.
it's on
Yeah, turn it off on just one of your two computers.
audio set, leave computer audio.
There you go. So now when you speak, you have to turn the sound on the other one, the one that doesn't
I've got to
have.
put my finger on the space bar.
All right, great. So now you're not doing the little echo thing. Good, thank you. All right, so let me see for a second Isabel's screen. Let me see. You are, oh, you've opened. Okay, so you're opening Photoshop. Oh, you're not on VDI. You're on your own computer.
Oh, okay, that must have been, okay.
So that, no, that's fine. So then that means you have your own Photoshop now. Do you have Bridge set up?
Bridge,
And
I think.
oh no, you are on. No, you are on. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no, you are on. Okay, you're fine.
but I couldn't see the pictures.
Yeah, it's
before.
confusing me. You are on VDI, right? I'm
I
getting
think
confused.
so, yes.
Yeah, there it is. A VDI is on top. Okay, so so you need to go down to the close this window. Okay, if this is open already. No, not the window. Sorry. Don't stop. Don't Photoshop. Close this file, the one that says vintage suitcase JPEG. Right, that little X right there. Yeah, close that one. Mhm. And say no to that.
Oh,
Okay, now you're back in see you have that white line across the image? That's because the Google Drive needs to be connected. So who else is on VDI? I'm just trying to check. Joyce, I know you're on VDI, right? Anyone else here?
Not anymore, actually.
Oh, you have your own software now. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So everyone else who's here seems to have their own software. And Leland, no, Leland has his own. Leland, are you a VDI? I can't remember. No, you have your own stuff, so you've been doing so much work. Okay, so Isabel, what you need to do now is go to, I'm gonna show you my screen, okay? And then you can do well, I'm gonna stop your sharing and I'm gonna share my screen and get you to where you need to go. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Everyone, meanwhile, open up Bridge and go find your photos while I catch Isabel up on how to get her VDI set up, and then we'll start. The first time we launch into VDI it can be kind of complicated. So when, see here on the bottom right, let me put the little tools here to turn on. There we go. So I see at the very bottom right of my screen how you have that tiny little arrow right there. Click on that arrow like that, and then click on the Google Drive, because what you're showing was a Google Drive that wasn't connecting. Dorothy, I've let you in on your second computer a bunch of times. Is it dropping out? I'm talking to Dorothy, her second computer keeps popping out. Okay, so did you click on this little icon that says Google Drive so that we can bring up whatever you have for Google Drive? In my case, I still have to sign in. Did you do this morning? Did you do the sign in just now? Isabel? You need to.
Okay. I did, and only says, but I couldn't say if I have to save it or leave,
don't-
so I couldn't.
Okay, actually, it's better if you just share me yours, because since you're the only one who's on VDI right now, just share your screen and I'll just help you.
Okay.
Normally I have to lead more people, but I think you're the only one on VDI right now, so I might as well just lead you. Okay, so did you join it this morning? Did you do the sign in this morning, today, or is it from another day?
I think it's from yesterday.
Okay, that's why.
I think it's from
So go up to that little tiny icon that says, yeah, settings. Go ahead and say preferences. Yeah,
and then I
go to
couldn't decide which one is
yeah.
it.
So Google Drive.
This one. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and now on the right side where you have the little settings icon again, the gears. Yeah, click on that one. Perfect. And now disconnect account.
This one. Disconnect.
Yes, disconnect. Say disconnect.
Okay.
And then, okay, and then you have to connect again. So that's what, every time you leave VDI, you need to do this, disconnect.
Because I couldn't
way
decide
when-
which. Okay.
And then when you start again, it'll show you the sign in that mine was showing right there. So now you sign in again. So this has to happen every time. If you leave it connected, yesterday's disconnect shows you that image that's all blank and broken. It just,
Oh,
it has,
okay,
it's
okay.
broke. So now you just sign in again. Once you've signed in again, then you'll be fine. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, okay. So now the only thing left once you finish signing in is to open your Bridge. All right. So that has to be the whole pipeline at pipeline.sbcc.edu. Okay, say next. Yeah, and then it'll have one more thing. Good, say continue to that.
Okay, that's what I meant.
And then make sure you downloaded it, say sign in.
Okay. Oh,
Cool. Now you can close that whole window. Now you can just go up the top and close that window. And then down there, just not now to that one. That's just because it's the first time you're signing in. Later you won't have it. Say okay. And then you're done. Usually it's just,
okay,
because it's your first, yeah, say okay. All right. Now go back to the very far left icon, the Windows icon on the very far left of your script, bottom left. Yeah, the Windows icon is the one, the 4 little squares. Yeah, click the 4 little squares. Yeah, that one. And then go to Bridge and open Bridge.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, and so now that Bridge opens up, now go to the 3rd icon on the middle that says Google Docs, Google Drive, sorry, it says. Yeah, double click on that one. Okay, now I'm taking her to the photos. Okay, now double click on shared drive, the second choice.
Oh, shared drive. Okay.
Yeah, and then now the very top left one, download the photos, class files. Yeah, that one.
That's what I forgot.
That's fine. Next time we do this, so during this week, your homework, there you go, there are your photos. So Isabel, your homework this week is to watch this portion of the video a bunch of times and practice, and just do this point, just get to this point, because at this point you're ready. Okay. Everyone else, normally I have a ton of people on VDI. We're at the point where we've been doing Zoom for so long that a lot of people have bought their own software and stuff. So it's the first time that I actually have only one person on VDI, and the rest of you guys are home with your own, I call it home, like have your own Photoshop in one way or another. So, so things are different this time. That said, I'm still doing the demo in the Photoshop on VDI myself. I'll see, since there's only one person, whether to shift or not, but right now, today I'm on VDI myself. Okay, so Barbara, you weren't here last class. Did you download the photos? You got them. Okay, good. Cool. Yeah, so everyone that I connected with is ready to go. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now with my bridge, and we're going to get going. So here we go. And hopefully everyone has opened their bridge by now and has found the photos. Susan, if you haven't used Bridge before, do you need help finding your photos through Bridge?
No, I've got them ready to open.
You've got them ready. Perfect. All right. I don't know why I'm getting this little advertisement going on here, which I do not know how to. There we go. All right. So Microsoft News, I don't, you can tell I don't really like Windows, but one of the things I don't like about it is how it keeps intruding into stuff. All right. So I want us all to open, and let's scroll down to this, actually scroll up. Where is the farm? Here it is. I have it, it's under the C, depending on how big your icons on Bridge are. You won't find it on the top row or on the bottom row. It'll depend. Just go to the, it's alphabetical order. So go to the C for Content Aware Farm. So just select it. Don't double click on it yet, because if you double click, it opens in Photoshop. And if you did, it's not a big deal because we will open it, but come back to Bridge. And the first thing I want to show you guys is, for those of you who are on VDI or Windows, because VDI is Windows, and quite a few of you guys are Windows people. I just want to show you how the best way to use these programs is to switch between Photoshop and Bridge using the taskbar like this. Okay, so not to try to be, when you try to move between one and another, using the taskbar down here is the best way. So if once we are in Photoshop, if you need to be able to switch, not to kind of start minimizing and moving things around, and it gets really confusing. And exactly the same issue with a lot of you guys are Mac people, and this tends to be something that people forget. First of all, if you have Photoshop or Bridge, and I'm actually moving things to another monitor here, so give me a second. I had to close Bridge when I was running out of space, so I don't have Bridge open right now, but give me 1 second. I'm going to share with you guys my Mac screen right now. So I'm changing my screen for those of you who are Mac people. And on the Mac, it's more typical to have floating. Are you seeing the screen that's showing my Photoshop and my Bridge right now on the Mac? Okay, so it's typical to have programs that float a little bit, and then people start moving things around like this to get to them, and that gets really confusing for a lot of you guys, because many of these programs look so similar to each other. So what I recommend, especially if this becomes like, instead of moving things around when you need to get to another one, to start using your dock. So put your mouse down until you see your dock, and then you just kind of click from Bridge to Photoshop, and then Photoshop pops up, and then Bridge again, and Photoshop or Bridge like that. And ideally, you could even expand. So go to the top left. This is for Mac people, top left of your screen and click the plus on the green button, and it fills your screen. That kind of worries people because then they don't see Photoshop. But if you go down to your dock and then click on Photoshop, there comes Photoshop to fill your screen. And now you have your entire screen either with Bridge or with Photoshop just by clicking here on the dock. And that makes things much easier to handle. A lot of times when people share their screens, they kind of have this situation where everything is like that and then they can't get to the other one and they have 20 other windows open. So that's just a recommendation as to how to handle it. If you need a hand with me showing you how to do that, I will. Meanwhile, I'm going to head back to my VDI. So this is once again a Windows machine, and the equivalent to that is down here in Photoshop or Bridge. And how you make sure that these programs are expanded is a little bit different. In Windows, you have that same idea, but most people in Windows are not accustomed to these floating windows, and it's even more complicated for Windows people. So go over to the far right of your program and then just click on this maximize button, and that'll maximize Photoshop. And then go to Bridge and click on this window and maximize Bridge. That way you'll always have the entire window filled with your program, but then you click on the taskbar down here. It's equivalent to the Max dock to switch from program to program. And that's all you need to have open. Anything else you have open, just close it for now. Between Zoom and video and everything that's happening, it gets really intense on the use of your computer and your computer's RAM and stuff. So I recommend closing all other programs and activities during class. All right. Any questions about that? Thanks for the $100 tip. Oh, is the student tip? Yeah. Remember, you guys are students. A lot of the times non-credit students forget to think of themselves as students.
Yes,
But if you guys got vaccinated,
I was in line with all the 18-year-olds.
yeah, I know. And they're probably looking at you like you're a professor here. And you're like, no, I'm also a student and I also get $100. So yeah, hopefully you guys got that that
Before-
message. Go get $100 from school for vaccinating you, for being vaccinated. Anyway, all right. Thanks for bringing it up so people know what I'm talking about. I mean, the whole point is we're trying to get everyone to be able to come back to in person. So it's a good incentive. All right. Did everyone check in on the chat? I'm not looking at the chat here yet. Yes. If you haven't put your name in there, please do so. And now what I was saying is go ahead and select this image, the content aware farm. And before we open anything else, this is where I want us to stop and pay attention to why we use Bridge is, well, there's many reasons to use Bridge, but in particular, what we're going to do right now is begin to look at the data. And once we get deeper into the whole conversation about resolution and pixels and stuff, you'll understand more. But for now, just trust me, it's this information that's here, the one that's showing up in the metadata. Hold on, I need to get my spotlight again. It turns off every time I share a different screen. There we go. So it's this information that's here under the metadata that becomes really powerful for us to begin to understand if our photos are good for us to use. So first of all, this is a PSD. So a PSD is a Photoshop document. Okay, so that means that this one is already a layered file. Or very possibly a layered file, and that's why you've saved it as a PSD. Now, to the left of that, you see a CR2, to the left of that, a JPEG, then we have a .NEF, a PNG, another JPEG. So as you can see, there's a whole row of photos of a whole variety of extensions. And these extensions, the file extensions, the things that come after the dot, are what tell us what kind of digital file we're working with. In fact, right here underneath this one, I have a .dng, another CR2. So all of these are files that were taken at some, not all of them, in fact, not the PNG, but most of these were taken by a camera and saved in one way or another, ready for us to keep working with it. And the typical camera that most people have saves everything as a JPEG. Okay, so a JPEG would be this example here, .jpg, sometimes seen also as JPEG. I don't know, I don't remember why the origins of it also being JPEG. But the most important thing about these files is that this is what most cameras, the moment you take a picture, that's the typical way that your cameras are set up to save the file as a JPG. This is a compression format. That means that your camera is already performing some post-production on your photo. Your camera is already deciding that if your photo needs to be warmed up a little bit or sharpened a little bit, or it corrects the color balance or whatever the camera model and brand decides to do, its little computer software puts something or already modifies your image from the moment you shoot it to the moment it gets saved with certain settings. It already has done some post-production to it. Stuff that we want to do here in Photoshop has already been done to it in the names of making the file smaller and more compressed so that you can put a ton more photos in each one of these tiny little cards that come in the cameras, right? And so that compression isn't necessarily a horrible thing, but if you have a camera that can avoid it, would be a camera that can shoot RAW, then the cameras that can shoot RAW will give you an image that is completely unadulterated, so to say. It is just what the camera saw. It captures all the pictures it captured, and that's the image that you're getting. Now, there is not a .raw to tell you this is a raw image. So that's the part that's confusing for people, because .jpeg is universal. Everyone gets a .jpeg extension when you have a compressed image that comes out of the camera. But if your camera is capable of shooting a raw file, then the extension that image is going to get is going to depend on the brand of camera. So if you own a Canon, you will get a .cr2, and that is a raw file, a file that the computer has, that the camera has photographed and has remained untouched and uncompressed, and whatever the camera saw is what it captured, and it'll give that image the name CR2. If you have a Nikon, it'll be .nef, and so on and so forth. And these are the only two examples I have, Canon and Nikon, but depending on your on the model of your, or brand or model of your camera, there's a whole bunch more. So here I have a little example of just all the different possible extension names, and I'm sure more of all the different camera. So say that you own a Casio, then yours is .bay. If you own a Sony, it could be any of these three: Kodak, Epson, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, there's even Canon itself has a couple of different ones that it's used in the past, NRW, NEF, and so on and so forth. So if you own a camera outside of your phone, check on the brand and the model and see, go online if you don't know, and see if your model of camera can shoot RAW. And if it can, find in the settings how to do that. And then do your best that whenever you're taking photos for something that you know you might want to then later make into a, you know, an image for the wall or to really show, to display, go ahead and shoot it as RAW. Yeah. And I was going to say, Ed's adding, most of you guys, if you have an iPhone or a Samsung of maybe newer persuasion, the last few years, let me say 3 years, 4 years, I don't remember since when, you can also shoot RAW with your phones, and there's apps that you can download to help you shoot RAW with your phones. Okay, so A raw image is going to occupy much, much, much more space though. So you won't just kind of every time you have, a friend's birthday party and you're shooting 20 images a minute, doesn't make sense to shoot raw. But if you're actually going to want one of those photos to, because, or if it's at some point when I really think that you're going to want to work with it more, definitely shoot raw, and you'll end up with the chance to make it much better in post-production here in Photoshop than if you had started with a JPEG. That said, here's the negative part of RAWs. You always have to you have to put it in Photoshop or in Lightroom or in whatever program you use to do some post-production on it, because usually the original raw image is actually a bit more blah and less interesting than the one that's already had a bit of post-production, which is the JPEG. So by default, your raw image has to be worked in Photoshop. And if you just don't want to do that to, 20 photos you just took of your, the last, trip that you did or whatever, then don't bother, then shoot it in JPEG. But if you think a couple of those images have the chance to be really something that you're going to really want to work on and make into a great photo, you're going to be better off with a raw image. All right. So that's a little bit of the explanation of all these different, extensions. There's one that's missing that I haven't explained, which is this one down here, which is the .dng. The .dng is also a raw image, but this is one that has been, it's an extension that's been created by Adobe. Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Lightning, all of Lightroom, all of these programs created by Adobe. And Adobe has created this format called DNG that kind of that unifies, and I'm going to get deeper into RAW in the future and tell you a little bit about the sidecar file and stuff. I'm not going to tell you right now. We'll get into that and I'll explain what a DNG is, but just so you know, DNG is also a raw extension. Okay. All right. So the difference between a raw and a PSD or a JPEG is that the moment you open a JPEG, it opens up in Photoshop. You open up a PSD, it opens in Photoshop. Let's just try that out. Let's just do that. Double click on this content aware farm and it'll open up in Photoshop. As you can see, my Photoshop has been triggered. So I double click on that and it's opening up in Photoshop. This is Photoshop. Most of you have experience with Photoshop, so I'm kind of jumping straight into this conversation, meaning it's not your, other than one of you guys, you've all seen Photoshop before and you recognize this. On the other hand, let's head back. So this is what I was talking about, heading back to Bridge. Click on Bridge. Let's open up a JPEG now. Let's open up this very first one that's got some numbers and then it says clock and it's a JPEG. Let's double click. That opens up also in Photoshop. Okay. Now, if you were to open a JPEG from any other place other than from Bridge, it will not open in Photoshop. A JPEG opened in the Finder or in the file extension, File Explorer, or any other way, will open in a myriad of other programs, depending on how your settings are, but not in Photoshop. Bridge is the only place where a JPEG is recognized as needed to be open inside of Photoshop. All right, so both of those opened up in Photoshop. If now I go ahead and open one of the ones that I've pointed out to you as a raw image. So let's start with this one, the one that's the Coffee White Balance NEF. By the way, stop me if you have any questions. Hi, Matt, nice to see you. And hey, Jenny. And Anna, yay. 3 of you guys who just joined us again. All right, so if you double click Coffee White Balance NEF, because it's a raw image, so I'm going to double click on it now. Photoshop kind of opens up in the background, but notice that my image opens up a completely different window. This window that just opened up is the raw engine that exists. Someone's yes, okay, Jenny, I think it's you. I'm gonna mute you because there's a
Oh,
lot of noises
sorry.
of movement behind you. No, that's all right. Okay, so so this thing that opened up is raw, and you guys might be in the same place I am, or you might not. So let me actually did anyone probably, I'm thinking of Isabel, maybe you got the whole new, did anyone get a whole like new welcome, some kind of window like that when you tried to open the raw image? Nope. You
Not
I
guys
me,
all
did.
got
because,
it.
because I've opened Lightroom many times during the last update, so.
Okay, so, but
It opens on Bridge also, the watch.
so when
It
you
didn't-
double clicked on this one, what happened to it?
It opens on Bridge too. I mean on
In Photoshop? Well, does it look like, does it look like this window?
oh wait, let me see. I think I click another one. Let me see.
It
I got it.
was the
Wait,
Coffee
there.
White Balance NEF. Some people get this a big window that says new and whatnot, and you know, welcome or something like that, because there's many times the raw has been updated, and every time that raw
Yes.
updates, it gives you a new like welcome window. And sometimes the okay to move on is hidden from screen. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone passed it. Isabel, you have the same thing I have now?
Yes.
Okay, Susan, have you used RAW before? Did yours open fine?
It opened, I got the screen that I had to get beyond the new screen. It asked me basically if I wanted to take a tour, and I said no.
No, okay, and now you're in, okay. Many times that new is so hard to move past. I want to make sure everyone moved past it. Okay, is everyone here? Jenny?
I have the welcome to Camera Raw 13.4.
Yes. Do you
Yes,
see
I'm good.
the, okay, good. Scott, do you see the yes or continue or,
I
you know, do you see
see
those
learn
buttons?
more or get started.
Get started, click on get started.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else who's not seeing what I'm seeing right now? Barb, how are you doing? I can't hear you. Your sound is on the one that's on your right. Or on your left. Like your sound is off, so you got to turn the sound on if you want me to hear you. I believe it's the other one that has the sound that you need to turn on. The one, turn your body toward the other monitor. That one, that's the one that you need to turn the sound on. Just unmute. Okay, I'll let you figure out how to unmute. Yeah, I have no idea what you're saying, so I know you're talking to me. I have no idea what you're
Press
saying.
the space bar. Press the space bar, Barb.
On the one on the computer that you are looking at, you can also
Okay.
press the space bar. There we go.
Can
As
you hear
long
me
as you-
now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you had me muted. It said, I don't know, something came up. I think it was wrong, but
It was just me saying, I was asking you to unmute yourself. So it was a ask to unmute. Okay. You were trying to, so did you get your file opened up in RAW? Just checking after that in the future.
oh,
if you
yes,
open RAW,
yes,
it shows
yes.
RAW.
And
Just checking
I
in with
have
everyone.
a brand new Photoshop and Lightroom, and I hadn't been into Photoshop, so I got a totally different screen when I turned it on. You know,
Mhm.
welcome to and tour.
Okay, got it. So you're in get started, you're all past it. Okay, good. This is just a check-in to make sure that RAW is up and running for everyone. We're not specifically going to work on this photo right now. I'm just trying to show you and check in with everyone, because once you set this up for the first time, next time we open a RAW, that's it. You don't have to go through the get tour open and all that kind of stuff. You're ready to go. You had to do it once and we just did that. All right. So when this photo opens up in here, this is like an in-between place between Bridge and Photoshop, in the sense that we are going to prepare this image using the tools in RAW because it's a RAW file. And then we need to decide if we want to move into Photoshop or if we're done working with it. So it's possible to work a photograph in RAW without having to then move into Photoshop. So we're going to start distinguishing, well, why would you use RAW? When do you need Photoshop? What's the difference? By the way, this RAW engine is also available in Lightroom or in Photoshop Elements. And actually, Patricia's not here today, but she's working in Elements. There's a couple other people who I'm not seeing who also work in Elements, but it's the same, it's the same, sorry, tool that Adobe is using for all these different programs. It appears sometimes a little bit differently, but it's the same idea.
Why does it seem to be much simpler in the camera raw? It seems like that it's easier, all the little sliders and things. It seems like they're easier to use in RAW than if you have the photo in Photoshop.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It used to be, of course, that these didn't exist, and you had to do everything with all the different layers and levels and adjustment layers in Photoshop. And then when RAW came along, what many of you guys have never, some of you guys have never used it before, but so Barbara's right. So many things can be done in RAW. Then why not do them? And here's the thing. RAW is a wonderful tool. It allows you to do so much to your image that leaves us to use Photoshop for the things that Photoshop's really specific and really, really good for. Instead of having to use Photoshop for the basic corrections, we can do a lot of those corrections in RAW and then use Photoshop for those things that only Photoshop is good for, things that Lightning can't do. RAW Photoshop is, today I said Lightning 3 times. Lightroom. I don't know why. My brain just decided this morning that Lightroom is lightning.
You get a pass, Deanna.
Thank you. There's things about Photoshop that are very specific to Photoshop. It's the only program that can do. And when you need Photoshop, then that's what we're going to focus on in these classes to really distinguish when it's good to use one or the other. But then that begs the question, what about those of you who don't have RAW photos? Why can't you use all these easy things, right? Well, guess what? You can. So without doing much to this image right now at all, I want to say, okay, let's just say that I right now I can't move on from here unless I choose to either move into Photoshop or close it back and go back into Bridge. That's the two things you can do in RAW. You can work on the photo, which we're not going to do right now. And then you can decide, okay, is there anything here that needs Photoshop? Yes. If so, you hit open. If you're done and you don't need to do anything else in Photoshop in this one, then you say done, and it goes back into Bridge. Now, we're not going to work on it. So now let's all choose the choice of cancel. So hit cancel, which is the middle choice, which is basically I've opened it, but I'm not going to do anything with it. So click cancel. And by clicking cancel, it closes. And we're left with those things that we opened up in Photoshop.
It's a middle choice on your computer. Huh?
So now let's go ahead and head back to Bridge. Let me know if I'm losing anyone. I'm just trying to make sure that we're out of RAW, because here's the deal. I told you that PSDs open up in Photoshop, JPEGs open up in Photoshop, RAW opens up in RAW. But what if you don't have a camera that shoots in RAW, but you still want to use those tools? Because as Barbara well said, the tools in Photoshop in RAW are much easier to use when they are the ones you need if you use them in RAW. So can I use any JPEG? Can I use a RAW to operate any to post-process any JPEG images? And yes, we can. So go ahead and click on this JPEG image here. It's called Green Cup Water. It's a JPEG image. It is not RAW. If I double click on this, what's going to happen?
It'll
open in Photoshop.
Yep, straight into Photoshop, which is not a problem. There's a ton we can do in Photoshop. But what if we want to work it in RAW? So let's do that. Let's figure out how to make this Photoshop open up in RAW. It's a JPEG instead of double clicking. Those
Right,
of you who
but-
like those of you who like icons, you can go all the way up here to this little guy right there who is it's open in Camera Raw. But if not, let's do a right click and then you can choose to open in Camera Raw. So for some people, this right click now and then isn't available. So I'm going to stop here and tell me, is this work for everyone to right click on the JPEG? If it's not working for you, let me know. Okay, so let's right click and now just click open in Camera Raw. And just click on it. And
I
here we
never
go.
picked up on that before. That's cool.
I know. So here we have a JPEG, green cup of water JPEG. It says right here. It's a JPEG. We all saw it was a JPEG, and yet it is open in Camera Raw. So
Looks like it's in a creek.
yeah. So here's the thing. Camera Raw tools are very intuitive, I'm going to say very easy to use. They're easier than Photoshop to use. And here's the real powerful thing about Camera Raw. It's always non-destructive modifications. So I'm going to write that word in there because I'm going to say this so many times you guys are going to get tired of it. So let me
Diana,
be clear.
is it
Yes.
it's non-destructive to a JPEG?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So let me explain non-destructive modifications. Raw images are non-destructive. Now let me back up because some of you guys, this whole concept of destructive is confusing. So let me right now I have down here, you see how if I click on Photoshop, I still see Photoshop, and if I click on Bridge, I'm basically seeing Raw. Can you tell that? So it's I'm gonna cancel that for a second. Oh, someone's coming in. Oh, Gustavo. There we go. There we go. I knew I had one more person on VDI. So sorry about that. I had to let them in and I had to drop that window. Okay. So so what's happening here is that I have an image that has let's say colors, and right now this one has a lot of noise. There's a lot of stuff that's happening here. And if I were to use this and want to change any of this in Photoshop, the way most people have used Photoshop for eons and who don't know how to use it because they've not taken my class, what will happen is that if anything you change here will change permanently. That's a destructive modification, meaning if this cup is now green and in Photoshop, people traditionally would turn it, say, red, that red is there to stay and you can never recover the original green. That is a destructive modification because you don't ever have what you can, I mean, yes, in the moment you can still undo, but meaning the moment you close and save that file, you cannot recover the original green if you've turned it red, if you don't do it in Photoshop the non-destructive way, which I will teach you how to do everything non-destructive. But most people don't know how to do it non-destructive and they just do it the destructive way. So Photoshop tends to be destructive in how people use it, not in its capabilities, right? Raw, on the other hand, no matter what you do to it, the fact that it's this engine does everything in a non-destructive way. So
That is so
let
cool.
me explain. Instead of changing this cup to red and changing the actual pixels, remember last week you saw the pixels when we zoomed into an image, we saw the pixels of an image. Instead of changing those pixels to red, what this raw engine does is it, and I'm paraphrasing, modifying whatever happens in the background here into something understandable. It basically saves a file, okay, that goes next to this file. This is what I was mentioned before, a sidecar file that gives instructions to the photo that whenever this photo opens up, anything that was green, please make it look red. But it's a computer instruction. Instead of actually changing the pixel color to red, there's something that tells the image to show it as red, but the original green is still there. And that is a non-destructive modification, okay? So that non-destructive modification accompanies the original green cup, all right? So let's do that as an example. So I'm gonna head over, well, I don't actually want to start with this one, but we're actually gonna go into Photoshop and show you the difference between doing it there and here. But the important thing about JPEG is that any changes that we make are gonna be non-destructive. So if you see the word basic here, go ahead and click on it. If you don't see it, if you already had a bunch of things here that are opened, then you should be seeing these sliders. But if you don't see them, it's because they're hiding under the word basic. So click on the word basic. Let me know if you can't find it or if you're not in the same place as me. Gustavo, how are you doing? Did you connect to the VDI correctly? And do you have the new Google Drive signed in?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Whoops. Oh, you need to do the sound off on one of them. I know. No, it's okay. You just need to go to the Zoom and turn the, what was the name of it? We just did it with Barbara. Leave audio, leave computer audio. Can you go find on the bottom left the microphone that says the word mute on your Zoom? Right next to the word mute, there's a tiny little arrow.
That's what it's in.
And if you click on that arrow that's pointing upwards next to the word mute, then you'll see the second choice upward is leave computer audio. And then you turn that one off in one of the two, and then you can unmute yourself from the other. I'm seeing that you still have computer audio on both of them though. So one of them needs to not have computer audio, because I do want you to be able to speak, but some people don't want to hear the reverb. Okay.
I already did it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so let me know if you need anything with the Google Drive and sign in and help with that to catch up. All right, so now let's go ahead and make any old change in this thing. Completely bizarre. It's not something that matters. Let's just go over here to the first thing that we see that says temperature, and let's grab this temperature and grab this tiny little arrow right there and just move it way over to the left. Okay, so it doesn't matter what we're doing. I'm just showing you a modification that's pretty stark and obvious, right? Like it's a real change. Yeah.
Big
Is everyone
time.
able to do that? Clearly, it's not the image that we had before. All right. This is a modification that right now we can decide, okay, I'm done working on this image. It's great. I don't want to do anything anymore to it. This is exactly what I wanted to do. In which case, let's all say, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do with this image. So then I can just say, I'm done. I'm done. I've done what I wanted to do this image. So everyone go ahead and say done. Okay, make this very obvious change, make something that looks really weird, and now say done. Okay, done. We should be going back to bridge now. Okay, everyone give me a little thumbs up or an okay if you've done that. Wait, I want to make sure that everyone's on my same
question.
Yeah.
So when I did that, it said error. Unable to save the raw conversion settings. There's an error parsing the file.
Ooh, okay. And you said you have your own version now. You're not on VDI anymore?
Yeah.
That's kind of like a corrupted file or something like that. Or, I mean, if it's the file, if you've been able to do it on others.
Oh, okay. I have an idea. So I'm accessing the files through Google Drive still, even though it's on my own stuff. So I think that's why I can't save it. Yeah.
No, yeah, you have to download them onto your computer. If you have your own Photoshop version, they need to be downloaded into your hard drive. And from there.
So I mean, anytime you save on Photoshop, you can choose the location. So Camera Raw is the only time I can't do anything like this. Right?
It's just, well, but it's just that your bridge right now is pointing towards your Google Drive.
Well, it's pointing toward the shared folder of my Google Drive. I didn't want to download the files
exactly.
because of
No.
the data cap. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the problem. The shared drive is locked. You can't save onto the shared drive. If you
Right.
want to be using your Google Drive, you're gonna have to transfer them to a
Well,
Google
right,
Drive of your
okay.
own
Mhm.
that you have access to, but the shared drive is locked. It's just for you guys to download, but you can't save to it other than me. No one can save to it, and that's why I'm
Oh,
giving you that.
So does that mean even through VDI it doesn't work? Is anybody else having trouble
Through
on VDI?
through VDI, it's not going to work either. You have to save onto your drive.
Right,
And when we
okay.
have to save something, I'll
Okay.
be teaching people how to save onto their personal drives, their personal
Okay,
Google
yeah, so
drives.
it's just camera. Yeah, it's just camera raw where you can't choose. That makes sense. Okay,
Because
thank
you know why? Because it's going straight back into Bridge. And whose Bridge are you
Right.
using? Who are the shared drive? So
Right, yeah.
that's why.
Mhm.
But even if
Yeah.
you say okay to that right now, if you go back to Bridge, you'll see it change because really you're going to be seeing mine because you're linking off of the shared
Right,
drive.
yeah. No, I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it
thank
looks
you.
changed. Okay. So it's just a technicality, but good. All right. So maybe what you can do, Joyce, since you're so quick with this stuff, because you know, I remember you're really comfy with all this stuff. What you can do is see the files that we're working on that day. Because right now I'm opening quite a few because I'm showing some different things, but maybe I'll say, okay, this one today, just download that one to your computer, use that one to work with. And then if you want, you can get rid of it. That way you don't have to download the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, the other option is to save it to my own Google Drive. From like
Yeah,
just download it to my Google Drive. So.
Yeah. And then I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure that you can operate straight in Photoshop from your Google Drive. I'll give that a try and tell you. I'm not sure how it works.
Well, couldn't you download it and then put it up on your own drive and then just pull down whatever you're using?
Yeah, Barb, but she's got computer space issues, so she didn't want to download all of them. And this is, you know, there's a lot of raw files here. And so that's why she was having this consideration. Anyway, we'll see how we can work around it. Joyce is really quick with computers. She can deal with, if necessary, downloading
she can
the
come help
one I'm
me.
using that day. Yeah. Okay. All right. So sorry, everyone. For now, when you let go of that one, don't save it, but then open up again from mine for just the sample. But when it's raw, you won't be able to save it. Yeah. Okay. Back to showing you guys in Bridge. So you see how over here, even the little preview now is showing me a very blue image here, very changed image. Yeah. But look at the new thing that's shown up here. Look at these little kind of, this is supposed to be a little icon here that is sliders. That's the raw sliders. See that there? Is it showing up for everyone on your Bridge? So this means that this is a JPEG that has now been modified with raw tools. So there is now attached to this file, there is another file, an XML file that is modifying it. Now these XML files are hidden. We don't see them. I don't see another file here that says green cup of water. Do you? In fact, there is a way to see them if you really do want to see them. And I believe if you go over here to, let me remember over here, view, show hidden files. So just don't do this necessarily, just watch. I'm going to show the hidden files.
Where are you going?
And when I show the hidden files, we're going to refresh. Why is it not showing my XMLs? Did something shift here? I did refresh. I don't know why it's not showing them. Show hidden files always shows your XML files. I haven't done this in a little bit. So right here, what we should be
linked files.
No, it's not linked.
Oh, and that's not even an option.
It's not an option, but anyway. I'll I'll have to look into why it's not showing, but I'll probably have to answer you next week, because usually when you say show hidden files, right next to any file that has this icon, which as you can see, there's another one here, you would see another file, which would be called greencupwater.xml, which is the file that is modifying our, it's that file, the sidecar file that modifies the
Would it be in
the raw
metadata?
file.
Or that's just that's just
No.
camera.
No, doesn't matter. I'll look into why it's not showing it. Don't worry about that. My big old, oof. Hello. Okay. My big old demo didn't work here, but it doesn't matter. The whole point is, trust me, this is, and this is what I wanted to teach you, completely reversible or editable or changeable, because this was a non-destructive modification. Let's check that out. How do we do that? Now that this JPEG has already been modified by RAW, I don't have to right click open in RAW. If I just double click it, and it's a just good old red JPEG, you already saw the other JPEGs opened up in Photoshop. This one here, if I just double click on it now, so everyone double click on the green water cup JPEG, and instead of opening directly in Photoshop, it opens again in RAW. My computer's, I should probably close my own. I'm going to close my own Photoshop and Bridge. My computer's having a bit of a hard time today. No. My VDI is not doing its thing. Okay. I have to refresh. I don't know why it's not. You know what? Joyce, did you open it? If you're opening it from the shared file, we're probably having a problem with that.
No, I don't have it opened.
Okay, I'm kind of frozen in my VDI. Let me stop my share for a minute to see if that triggers it to.
How about cycles between before and after?
Hold on, I don't know what you're talking about, Barbara. I'm
Under
totally
the photo
frozen.
on the right.
You know what? Give me a sec. I'm gonna have to disconnect from VDI completely because this thing is just not. Let me close my student desktop. Give me a second. It's totally frozen. All right.
You have too many followers.
No, I don't know why it's doing this. I have not had problems. Sorry, an error occurred. Photoshop encountered a problem. Don't send. This is all inside of VDI. Okay. Let me try one more time. And you guys aren't seeing this, but give me a second. But my Photoshop crashed in VDI, and I'm restarting it. And then when it comes up, then I will share again. Okay, did it open up for you guys though? And you're back in RAW?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a second. There it is. It opened up. Okay, let me share again. Okay, so here I am. The photo opened up again, and it's a JPEG, right? And I told you how JPEGs open up in Photoshop, but since this one has been modified in RAW, this JPEG opened up in RAW. And notice how easy it is to just move this slider and turn it into something totally different. Go back to wherever it was before. In this case, we want it to go back to, 0, whatever it is that I believe it was a 0 to start with. So you can just type in a 0 in there and hit return, or you can move the slider around to bring it back to where it was. And it is exactly the original image. It is exactly where we started with. You see that? It is not similar or different. It is exactly the same one. Now there's a ton of other stuff we can work with on this photo. I just wanted to show you guys how a JPEG, once modified in RAW, is now opens up as if it were a RAW file. Okay. Any questions right now? Barbara's been good at prompting certain things, but is there any other questions about whether you know, RAW and JPEG, which every time some of you guys have been in my class before, you already knew this, but a lot of you guys who had not been in class before are always really surprised by this.
So
Now,
if you've edited or you've worked on the photo in the Camera Raw engine, and then you just want to get rid of all your changes, other than resetting everything to 0, it would seem that if you could delete the XML file, you could do the same thing.
Yeah, actually deleting the XML file for any RAW file or JPEG file, deleting the XML file brings your photograph back to actual what came out of the camera.
Okay.
They're straight out of camera, so to say, is how they're called. And that's not necessarily ideal. You might as well create a different version to have another version of the image or whatever. But if you really don't want any of the changes you've made, you can just delete the file, or you can go back here and set the settings all back to default, and that sets it all back to 0 again, and then you start again. Okay.
Sorry, where
Now,
do you set the settings all back to default?
You can, there's a couple of different places that you can do that in, but I'm just noticing that my right click isn't working. Let me put I need to put the color again on my spotlight. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so because otherwise you don't see my mouse. So down here, you have these two little icons, and the one in this little sub, if you hover over it, see how it says toggle to default settings. Go ahead and move something else now. I'm going to move the green tint or something, which is so obvious. And now I'm going to head back here to toggle to default settings. And when you toggle, there's the default, and you toggle again, and here's your change. So you click on it one time. That's how it started. You click on it here, and there's your change. So guys, make a big change again. Make a huge, obvious change, right? Again, these aren't modifications we want. I'm trying things that are very visibly, color is always very easy to see a huge change. And then you head down here and you go, okay, back to 0, back to completely how I opened it. And if this is what you like, and this is what you're done, you leave it there, and then you say done, and you're done. You've defaulted back to 0 settings. Does that make sense? If you click on it again, you go back to whatever changes you make, and you keep modifying this one all you want.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, now here's the big let's just toggle back to default settings. Let's actually go back to 0. We don't want all those bizarre changes. And let me say now, you're in a Photoshop class, and I'm kind of showing you this, which a lot of people haven't considered Photoshop yet. This is a huge part of Photoshop. It's just not the well-known part of Photoshop, but it is, as Barbara Will said, so much easier to use in order to do some basic modifications. Anything that has to do with light and exposure, anything that has to do with color, noise. This photograph has a lot of noise. See all those little dots? If you look at the texture of the shadowy parts of the hand, if you look in here, you see a lot of tiny little dots. That's noise. RAW is great for getting rid of noise. There's so many things RAW does so well, so completely well. It's the question of, then why do I need to move into Photoshop? And here's where Photoshop comes into its beauty, which is whenever you need to do very precise modifications, because the majority of the changes you can do in RAW are global modifications, meaning it happens to the entire image. So if all the image has to get greener, if all the image has to get bluer, that's great. And again, I'm kind of exaggerating the example here. Rarely do we want the whole image to get a ton greener or ton bluer, but it could be that the light needs to modify it in such that all the image has too much green light or too much yellow light or whatever. But most of the times, there's parts of the image that can use a different change than another part. And if it's just an area, RAW can also do that. You can modify just general areas. but what you can't do is isolate a specific individual. You can't specifically isolate this cup in RAW and only change the cup. You can kind of generally isolate this area-ish, but that modification will probably also affect part of this hand or the water that's inside. You know what I'm trying to say? It's very hard to just select only the cup. That's what Photoshop is great for. So if all you want is to modify specifically the cup or specifically this hand or specifically the, I guess, sleeve or only the water, then Photoshop is really good at isolating in just really specific parts of the image and then modifying only specific parts of the image. It is also perfect for when you want to composite things, collage things, actually bring this cup in and have it be dipping in an ocean instead of in a creek. Or, you know what I mean? Maybe have the cup dipping into a cloud to pick up a little cloud of fog instead of a little cup of water. So that is Photoshop. When you modify it, that is specifically Photoshop. By the way, you can still change color, lighting. You can do all those modifications in Photoshop as well. But now that we can do it in RAW and in Photoshop, many times what we do is we do the majority of our changes, especially color balance and stuff like that, in Photoshop in RAW first, and then move into Photoshop for the rest of the very punctual modifications. Okay, so how do we move into Photoshop? Then we do it by hitting the open. Now let's just make a change here that I would normally make in RAW. Okay, something that's good for this image to be done in RAW, and that would be, in this case, I want to get rid of some of this noise. So this is an image that isn't very sharp per se. There's not any part of it in particular that's very sharp. But specifically, one thing that it has is a lot of noise. Now, just so you know, I'm not one of those photographers that hates noise. Some people can't abide by noise. I actually like noise when it's appropriate. But the best tool to get rid of noise, if you don't want it, is actually the RAW engine. So let's go ahead and work a little bit on noise at a very basic level here. So let's close basic by clicking on the word basic. So if you click on the word basic, it opens one time. If you click on the word basic again, it closes, right? Because there's a whole bunch of choices here that we're going to make depending on what we want to fix. In this case, I want to just work on the noise of this image. So hit the word detail. Click one time on the word detail. And again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time teaching you everything about noise reduction, everything about, you know, sharpening and all that kind of stuff. Right now, I'm just trying to make one modification in this photograph so that then we can take it into Photoshop and maybe make another modification inside of Photoshop. So let's go ahead and notice that down here we have noise reduction and color noise reduction. Let's just go ahead and first of all, I don't want to work with color noise right now. Let's just go to noise reduction. Noise reduction, if I click on this guy here and start bringing it up, first of all, just to see how powerful this can be, let's slide this all the way to the very end, which, by the way, sliders should be very carefully moved. You should never do abrupt movements, but just to really see a big change, the best way to see what's happening is to suddenly move this all the way to the end. And then look at your image over here. And for a lot of you guys, that's like, yeah, well, still, I don't see much. It depends on where, by the way, what are the default settings? What do you have detail on? Do you have it on 50 and contrast at 0? Is that, I don't know what the default settings are, because I don't know if I've moved these before or not.
That's what I have, Deanna.
That's what you have? Okay, so that's pretty default then. Okay, so noise reduction to 100. Now look at this part of the image. Just look at that part of the image and then bring it all the way back down to 0. Do you see any difference? Like, you pretty much have to do it on your own because it's too subtle to really see through the video that I'm showing, pretty sure. Just do it yourself. Look at this dotted speckled hand and then now move it all the way to the end. And what do you see happening?
It gets real soft.
it was real soft. This is an image that isn't very sharp. I'm not sure if softness is what's changing in this case. That would be part of sharpening. What's happening is the skin is getting smoothed out. Does that make sense? You guys
Okay,
see
yeah,
that?
that works.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is now because the term soft has to do with focus in Photoshop and in photography. So this isn't necessarily, it is already a soft image. Is it already an image that has no sharp focus anywhere? Not even here. I don't know, maybe back here. But it smoothed out a lot of those speckles, didn't it? Now,
Yes.
there's more choices we can make here, and there's even more choices we can make here. Maybe this one has some color noise. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go into all the other choices right now. I just wanted to show you something that will be done much better in RAW, and just move it back and forth, and you'll just really see it change immediately. Now, this photo is so off in focus. If you use the noise reduction all the way to the end like this in many photos, it just turns into something that looks like plastic. So I wouldn't recommend it. But right now, this is something that I wanted you to notice very, very sharply. And this change is a very not sharp, now brings into the conversation of focus. This is a change that is very noticeable, and that it is much better done in RAW than in Photoshop. The noise removal engine in RAW is much better than the one in Photoshop. And I don't want to explore this whole engine right now. I just wanted to make one big change and now say, okay, now I'm ready to go into Photoshop. Okay, so let's go ahead and decide that we're ready to go into Photoshop and head over to the choices for opening. Last time when we made everything blue and we didn't want to change anything else, we said done, and that brought us back to bridge, remember? That's it. Then when we opened it again, we noticed we could undo that, and the photo was back to normal. So now what we're going to do is we're going into Photoshop. Now, there's two ways of opening into Photoshop. And if you just hit open, it just opens up as if this was the beginning of the image, like as if we had done nothing else, as if it was the original. Or we can open it as a smart object. I'm not going to explain smart objects right now. You guys will get a lot of time. I will explain smart objects a lot. Right now, let's just do the very basic open. Just open. That's it. Nothing else. And now this opened into Photoshop. I'm gonna wait until everyone, whoops. I don't know why I did that. Undo itself. All right, is everyone in Photoshop? My Photoshop is doing some thinking. Is everyone here?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so now here we are inside of Photoshop, and this image has opened completely as if this were the original photo. Now, this isn't the original photo. This is a photo where you've already taken quite a bit of the noise off. But as far as Photoshop is concerned, this is the original photo. So here's the question is, can you go back now and undo that noise removal? From here? No. As far as Photoshop is concerned, this is the original photo. This is the beginning of the working with this photo. Whatever you did in RAW, you can still revert in RAW. You can go back and revert that image in RAW, but this one now is a new image, and this is the beginning of the work of this photograph in Photoshop, already with a lot of the noise removed. Okay, this has been, right now, this could be considered that we've opened Photoshop with an image that has a destructive modification. It was done in RAW, but because I open in Photoshop at this point as a basic open, this has been incorporated into this image, and this is now considered the raw pixels, not the raw, the original pixels with the dots already removed, meaning it has been destructively modified. Does that make sense? Now, let's be clear one last time, and I know that I'm able to speak about this because the majority of you have already done quite a bit of Photoshop. So if I'm confusing a few of you guys who are a little bit new here, please ask your questions, let me know. And many of you guys who have been here for a long time, done Photoshop for many years, you know, you still might have a lot of questions about RAW because, you know, as the years go by, I spend much more time in RAW because that's what we do with Photoshop now. We spend much more time in RAW, but you might have not had so much experience of it yourself. So please ask me all your questions about this process. Now, if I head back to Bridge.
Diana,
I
just a
look at my-
second. Is there a way to go back to the raw engine without, like from Photoshop?
Yeah, so that's what I was, great question. You're going exactly where my brain is about to go. I can go back to RAW, back to Bridge. That image, if I double click it again, it opens again in RAW and I can take that noise modification off. This right now is still considered a RAW image with a RAW modification. Since it's open right now, I can't open both at the same time. But right now, this one here, I need to save it. If I want to be able to do what Susan says, which is to keep going back to that original image and keep modifying the RAW, this image has to be saved as a different file, which is what we're going to do now. Okay, so now this one is a Green Cup Water. Notice the name has changed. Do you see up there? It used to be called Green Cup Water. What Green Cup Water is it called now? Green Cup Water -2. This one was just Green Cup Water. See that? This one was Green Cup Water. I have not changed the name of this one, and yet Photoshop called it Green Cup Water 2. Is that happening to yours? I'm just, as I said that, I'm noticing, wait a minute. No, mine still has the one, this, you know why this happened to me? I apologize, because my Photoshop crashed. Let me close this one. Save. Let me just actually go back to where you guys are. Here's
I did not get it.
I was like,
too.
yeah, no. Remember that mine, never mind. Mine had crashed and I had another one open and I had to reopen it. There we go. So as I said that, I'm like, well, that's weird. So I'm taking it back. It says Green Cup Water here. This is that image. We need to save it as a different image. Okay. So let's head down and let's make, right now that we're in Photoshop, let's make a modification in Photoshop right now. And it's going to be a modification that we're going to make that's gonna, let me look at the time.
Oh, where did my tools?
I need to give you guys a break.
There they are. Okay.
Let me do a very simple change here right now. I'm going to make this into a layered file. We're going to save it. We're going to take a break and then we're going to keep working here. So
Okay.
This image, to turn it into a layered file without bringing in other layers, all I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock it. See this little lock right there? Click on that little lock. Now we have a layered file. Yep. Has everyone got a layered
Yes.
file? Okay. So now let's save this file. And guess what? This was a JPEG, right? Now I've turned it into a layered file. If I try to just save it by going File, Save, or Command or Control S, I will always be talking to you about shortcuts because I do nothing but shortcuts, but I'm also going to show you in the menus for people who like menus. Save is File, Save. Control S or Command S for the Mac is the save. So if we try to save this file, you're going to be told, well, where do you want to save, on your computer or cloud? Those of you who are at home, like you have your own version of Photoshop, you might want to choose one and say, don't show again. That's up to you. I am going to always recommend to save things onto your computer. What this means is that if you save to cloud, it's going to save into your iCloud, into your Creative Cloud, that subscription that you're paying for. Here's the good and the bad. Once you stop paying that subscription, if you keep those things in the cloud, you lose all that stuff. So that's the bad. The good of having it up in the iCloud, the Creative Clouds, Adobe's cloud, which is what would happen if you say that, is that then you can pick that file up from any computer as long as you connect to the Adobe Creative Cloud. So that's the good news of the cloud. It doesn't take up space on your computer. It takes up space in the Creative Cloud. And if you are paying a subscription, I think you get, correct me if anyone knows, I think you get 20 gigabytes of material you can put up in the cloud. I think that's the number right now. So you can do that, but just be aware that if you do that and you ever stop paying for your subscription, you have to first take all your stuff out of the cloud and put it in your computer before you stop paying your subscription. Because
Are you talking about the Adobe Cloud?
The Adobe Creative Cloud. This
Okay.
here is the Adobe Creative Cloud, not like your iCloud or your Google Docs or your, Dropbox or whatever other cloud you're using. This is the Adobe Creative Cloud that it's proposing to save your stuff on. Okay, so your choice. I prefer to save on my computer. If you always want to change your choices, keep this going. But if you always want one choice, then at home, just go ahead and say, don't save again, and then make your choice, and it won't bother you with this box anymore. Since I'm
Diane?
teaching, I will always have it open. Yes,
I have a question.
click on save
I
on your
have-
computer, everyone.
I have iCloud, and
Mhm.
supposedly everything I do gets saved to the iCloud.
Mhm.
Now, when I'm in an Adobe program, and I save something, it on my computer, it's on my computer, so it should be being saved also in
Yeah.
iCloud.
So, yeah, so this is a Mac question, and I have a whole bunch of Mac classes where I teach all of this. The quick answer is, if you have your desktop and documents saved to the iCloud and you're saving this file in your desktop or documents, then yes, it will go up to the iCloud. But I don't want to confuse everyone else with this answer because you might not be Mac
Okay,
people.
can
So,
when
yes.
I'm in Photoshop, is there a way to have it saved into the Adobe Cloud?
Yeah, by clicking on the save to cloud documents that I just
Okay,
showed you. Then it
I
goes
got
into
you.
the
I
Adobe
got
Cloud.
you. I was confused. I understand.
Yes, that's fine. Yes, Isabel?
Can I still save it on the command on your computer, or should I save it in cloud documents?
No, so VDI people, which is right now Isabel and Gustavo and me, I think that's the only ones left on VDI. Leland, you're not on VDI, are you? I don't know. I don't think he is. Isabel and Gustavo right now, we have to save to the VDI computer. So I'm going to show you right now what I'm going to do. Gustavo and Isabel need to follow. The rest of you guys right here, go ahead and save it wherever your computer files are. If you left your files in downloads, wherever you created this class photos, you can go to downloads. If you already put them in documents in another folder, I can't go in and right now figure out where everyone put their photos, but usually wherever you put you open this one from, this is probably trying to save it to that same folder. But for VDI people only, so Gustavo and Isabel, here on the left, click on Google Drive. Click on Google Drive. And here, Joyce, is where you can't go to shared drives. No one can save and share drives other than myself. So both Isabel and Gustavo go to My Drive, double click on My Drive, and maybe Joyce. Google Drive, My Drive is your own personal Google Drive. You will not have any of these photos in there, nothing. These names in there. You'll have whatever you have in your Google Drive. Make a new folder.
Wait, I'm lost.
Okay, so I'm going to cancel then.
No, it's not open the option of any of those in my computer. I tried to save it as.
Okay,
and-
I'm going to stop my share. It's always, this is the only part the first time when we have to share files, the only time that VDI gets confusing, but after that you'll figure it out. So share your screen and I'll help you save this file, and then we're all going to take a break and come back. Okay, so click on save on your computer. No, keep that open. Okay,
Oh,
says
sorry.
filing it, says file save. Yeah,
That
File
takes a
save.
long time.
yeah. Now save on your computer, which is the one on the right. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and now on the left, go to Google Drive, down 2 or 3. Yep, there. Then go to My Drive. Double click. No, back, yeah, double click. And then right where it says new folder, click up, like right above the word name, keep going up. with your mouse, go with your mouse up to the word name. No, to the, yeah. I have to
Here?
show you. It's easier to show you. No, keep going up. Right there where it says name, right there, stop right there.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, so right above that name, a bit to the left, you see the word new folder? A little bit to the left, not right. Go to the left. New folder right above you.
There you go.
Yay, new folder. And now call this one, I don't know, Photoshop class files, my work, my Photoshop work, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but it's your files of Photoshop, not all the class files I gave you, but your work. All right, Gustavo, I think you probably have one set up already from last class. Yeah.
I think
So
so.
in there, okay, so click away. Yeah. And now say, oh, yeah, you need to, yeah, say open to that. You need to click away. Yeah. And now say open. Yeah. Open. Cool. Now you can save. Now you can save right in there. Okay. Perfect. Now I'll tell you later how to retrieve things from there, but just say okay to that. And I'm going to stop your share. Okay. So, does anyone else need help saving their file to the right place? If you're a bit confused into where your files are or where to take them?
Were you saving file? Were you doing save or save as, Deanna? I missed that.
I was doing a save as.
Okay.
But even if you do a save, even if you do a save, let me share my screen. No, you can just do a save. Let me just share my screen to show you. Hold on. Actually, I was doing a save, not a save as, but let me explain. This file is now layered. Remember, all we did was unlock it. So if you didn't unlock it, something else happens. So you need to have unlocked it, and it should say layer 0. It's now a layered file. So a JPEG, if I try to save it, which is the point I was trying to make, and I try to save it, I have to go through save on your computer. Let me go through the whole process, Photoshop. When you try to save it, it automatically, see how it got changed to a PSD, a Photoshop document?
Yeah.
Because I am layered. No, I could have saved as a JPEG again if I wanted to, but because I layered it, because it's now a layered file, it cannot save anymore as a JPEG because JPEGs can only be flat files. They cannot be layered files. So Photoshop already knows that and is making it into a PSD, Photoshop document. Talk a little bit more about why in a minute, but you never want to work on a photo that's a JPEG and save it again as a JPEG because you're compressing it. And when you compress it, you lose quality. So you don't want to do any more JPEGs until you're ready for final, you're ready for output. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So now you're going to always want to save it as a Photoshop file until you're completely done with this image. And even then you should still keep it as a Photoshop file. So that's why it didn't save as a JPEG again, because I had turned it into a layered file. Okay. Say save to that. And then 1 second, when this question comes up, which Isabel's hesitated and I'm going to explain it. You should always say yes, always say okay to this one. This means that your photograph will be able to be, as much as possible, opening up anytime you have any other version of Photoshop. So right now we're in Photoshop 2021. If you open this file in Photoshop 2023 in 2 years, this will help it be more compatible with that, or with Photoshop 2019 that you might have in some other computer. Okay, so you always want to say yes to this one. Okay. Barbara,
Okay,
you had a question?
That didn't come up, but that may be in my settings. It's saved to a folder I made on my desktop inside Diane, but it saved as a TIFF.
Well, that means that you changed it to save as a TIFF. It's okay. Next time, when you open it, it'll open up as a Photoshop. It's fine for now. That was something you probably have your settings default set to save as TIFFs instead of
Yeah,
Photoshop.
I probably do. Yeah.
Which I really do not see the reason. It takes up much more space in your computer. There's no reason to do that right now. But if that's what you had set up, then that's what happened. Let's take our break. Usually I try to have things a little bit, let's see, it's 10:30, it's 10:40. We're going to take a 15-minute break. So be back by 15 minutes, that would be 55. Okay, so I put it in the chat. Be back by 10:55, ready to go. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
Gustavo, you have a
remind me
question?
to ask you, that about that chat, we're supposed to go in, put our name in or something. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's something
Okay,
for
so
later.
down, all right, so move over the Zoom. Everyone go take your break. I'll help a couple of people during my break, but you
Well,
all
then
go
you
take
won't
break
get
in the
your
back.
break.
That's fine. I don't usually need 15 minutes. I'll just need 5. Okay, so Gustavo also has a question and anyone else who has a question. So sometimes I need my break, I'll tell you, but I'm fine. So Barbara, go to your Zoom window and notice that if you hover your mouse over the place where we're all, where I'm speaking or I'm speaking, the same place where you had to do the mute, one of those choices as you move towards the middle is chat.
My
One of
Zoom
those little
window,
bubbles.
my Zoom window on my new iMac doesn't open when I click on it.
Well, where am I speaking? Look at where I'm speaking
But
to.
okay, I have you. Oh, go up there, Barbara. View.
Go to where I'm speaking to you, where you see me
Yeah.
moving my hand and talking. And
Right.
if you move your mouse, all of the Zoom tools appear. The ones that say mute, stop video, security, see all those little buttons that appear under where I'm talking to you. Okay, so then tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, I got you big now. Now where do I go?
When you hover your mouse around there, because you need to be moving your mouse around it as Zoom is selected, then you'll see underneath you'll see a big green button that says share screen, for example. That one. Okay, to the left of share screen, do you see the word chat?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I go in
you
there.
go. Click on the word chat.
And
then it opens up. You can write a message if you have a message to me, or in this case, just say, hi, I'm here. I finally figured out the chat. Yay. Something like that.
Okay, so I just clicked, right?
Yeah, just click on the chat and then type something to everyone. And then just type something like, I'm here. It's Barbara.
No, that didn't work. Oh, type the message there. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Click in where it says type message here, click there and then hit your return or enter key. And you will be sending me a message.
BARBARA. And then we're sending.
Return or enter. Yep. There it goes. Hi, this is Barbara. And for you, it'll say me to everyone. For you, you'll read me to everyone, but I read Barbara Welch to everyone. Okay.
Oh yeah, I got it. Oh, okay.
Right,
thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, you're welcome. Gustavo, what's your question?
Rapidito. Antes de guardarlo, ¿puedo compartirlo en mi pantalla?
Sí.
Nada más
Sí,
para
por
estar
favor,
seguros
compartí.
que estamos
Sí,
en
sí,
el mismo
compartí. Sí,
canal.
perfecto. Muy bien. Entonces, andate a Files Save.
Ajá,
arriba.
pero esa era mi pregunta. Ahorita no lo quiero guardar porque quiero trabajar todo lo que me perdí en la clase.
No, bueno, no, pero no, guardala porque quiero que hagas, que estés al mismo nivel. No te perdiste mucho, bájate al save, arriba, subí, ahí, save.
Ajá,
Y ahora
igual.
pones save on your computer.
Y
Muy bien. Y ahora a la izquierda es el Google Drive. Después My Drive. No,
My
arriba.
Drive? Oh, yeah.
Double click, sí, My Drive. Y ahora acá hacete un folder nuevo, new folder, Photoshop.
Y nada más le pongo el nombre, ¿verdad?
Sí, Photoshop.
Okay, I
can poner
Darn.
perfecto. Y ahora decir open.
Right.
Barb, I'm gonna mute. Normally I mute everyone, but I'm trying to listen to Gustavo, so I'm not muting everyone yet, but I can hear you, Barb. Okay. Muy bien. Y ahí automáticamente se te está salvando como PSD, está bien. Así que decir save. No, close, no. Baja y decir save. Ahí. Perfecto. Y ahí estamos. Ahora sí.
Listo para regresar, ¿verdad?
Ya estamos donde está todos.
Okay.
Perfecto.
Gracias. Y sorry
de nada,
por
Gustavo. Ok. Sorry guys, my timer didn't go off. I was working during the break and then I forgot to put my timer on. So in the end, I'm back a little bit late. Sorry. So hopefully everyone's here. Here we go. I had us save this file before we left and explain that this file now is a layered file simply because we unlocked that layer. But what that did is it gave us the opportunity to have this file be separate from the original JPEG. And now we have the original JPEG, which can be opened again. And this was referring to Susan's question. If I were to go back to Bridge and open that original JPEG, it would still open in RAW, and it would allow me to maybe take away this noise removal or to make other RAW changes to it. But this file that we now have open in Photoshop is now a separate file. And it is one that started as if it has already much less noise as its beginning point. And that one per se can't be backed up. Does that make sense, Susan? Not sure that everyone's back yet. So here I'm asking questions, but that's okay.
We're here.
Yeah. So, well, during break, I'd turn everyone's sound off. And so at first, people who had their sound on, if you need to speak to me again without having, if you don't have noise in the background, you can keep your sound on. Then you can just answer without having to go back and forth. Okay. So now back to Photoshop. This image here is the beginning file. And we are limited by what it does or doesn't have as a beginning file in Photoshop. But we can also work on making it better inside of Photoshop in the way that is, in the manner that is akin to Photoshop specialty, which in this case, and I'm going to just give us some very general decisions that we're going to make about this file. And one of them is I want to be able to separate the cup from the water and from the hand, and maybe make some modifications to itself. And maybe we can also separate the whole water itself and give it another tone so that it looks like maybe a water from a different river or stream. This one here is reflecting, of course, the rocks underneath it. That makes sense that it's brownish, but not necessarily every change that you make in Photoshop needs to have it make it be a fake photo or a composite. You can also just enhance your photo to make it look like just an awesome photo. And or you can make things that are completely unrealistic. It's your choice. That's, you know, artistic expression. Some people are, you know, purists of photography, and some people are here because they're artists and want to see how to modify their images in a very different way. So I'll be teaching to in a way that you can use the tools to your for your whatever you choose to do. But the big strength of Photoshop is also that if I were to want to put a little fish swimming in this water, underneath this water, I could do that. If I were to want to have this be, as I said before, a cup scooping into a bunch of clouds, I could do that. So that's compositing and bringing in a different imagery, or taking parts of this photo and putting it in another one, or the photos and bringing them in here. So that capacity to isolate very specific portions of a photograph, to modify them and manipulate them in one way or another, and the capacity to composite is which makes Photoshop completely different from any other of the photo editing programs that Adobe has. And which is why I always say, if you are a pure photographer and you do nothing else but photography and have never any intention to modify your photos, and other than to just correct their lighting and exposure and color balance and things like that, then you can do that purely in RAW. You can do that in Lightroom, but once you want to work with your photographs to any other in any other extent or capacity, then that's when Photoshop comes in. Okay. That said, there's a whole bunch of different issues with Lightroom and Photoshop and what you can do with color settings, and there's just a lot more in the background that makes them different. But right now, that's the big difference. Now, let's go ahead and give you some idea of what we can do with this photograph, and what's the power of Photoshop, stuff that we're going to keep exploring over the next bunch of classes. We're going to just get a slight flavor of it right now. I know that when I first had you guys open up Photoshop, we opened 2 other JPEGs that since my Photoshop crashed, I don't have. We had opened the clock, and what was it that we had opened? I think I had you guys open the clock and the farm. That's true. So I'm going to double click for the people who showed up a little bit later, go back to Bridge and double click on content aware farm. That's one that you guys had all opened up, and back to Bridge. And in this case, it's a JPEG, but I'm just double clicking on it so it won't open in RAW or anything. And this clock is the other one that we had open. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Joyce. Is always so good. I really so glad that you're always there to remind me if I'm sharing or not. And I can't always tell. So thank you for that. All right. So so now we have the green cup, and then the content aware and the clock. Now you guys might have them in different order up here, but the reason I wanted 3 is to get you guys to understand how you can just switch also from photo to photo. All 3 are open and all 3 are available. Now notice that you guys probably have content aware, farm, and clock first, and I have my green cup first. What if I wanted to move it to be the last one? All I need to do is grab this name and just kind of drag it over and drop it in here, and it'll be the last one. Now, if perchance when you drag things out, notice how when I clicked it out, it kind of dropped out like this and became like a little window. That's not ideal right now to be able to flip back and forth. So you can just grab it again and then just put it in that little spot again, and then it'll become a tab again. And then you can tab between all 3 images. Okay. Now, when you have more than say 4 or 5 images, there's no more place to see them. Then there'll be a little arrow here showing you that you have more open, but we're going to leave that for whenever we need to open more and whatever it happens. Right now we have these 3. So what I'm going to want us to do right now is to go to this clock image. Now, this is an image that is very easy to separate from its background, in the sense that it is a very stark, outline around it that will very easily be able to be selected. Versus if you tried to select this cup, it's much murkier. The edges of this bottom here and over here, you can barely tell where the cup ends and when the water begins, and over here where it has all this edge. So this is a much harder item to select. So you always have to consider that when you're trying to say, oh, I'm going to bring this cup over. Well, how much of this is, I'm going to have to draw it out and imagine where it comes and things like that. So just now to get an idea of layered files and compositing, we're going to go over to this clock. I'm going to teach you how to do selections, which is such a crucial part of Photoshop, is to do a good selection. But it's like riding a bicycle. You don't do the best selection the first time you do a selection. So while we're honing in on our selection chops, so to say, Photoshop has provided, it keeps providing. Each time it updates, it provides a newer, better, more subtle tool to do selections for us in case we can't figure out how to do them. And there's a couple of new ones, not completely new. Some of you have already used them with me, but some of you who haven't taken a class for a while have maybe not used yet. Where Photoshop does its best to select for us, and then we can always modify it and make that selection better versus starting from scratch. So when I started with Photoshop in Photoshop 1 eons ago, all I could do is literally by hand outline with a pen tool each little bit of this clock to separate it from its background. Now, over here on the top left, we have a whole series of tools. By the way, Susan, I know that you watched the video, so did you already change your workspace to be photography, do everything as in the video, or?
Yes, I did.
You did, okay. Anyone else who needs that? I think Barbara, I don't know what your workspaces might be because you probably you weren't in this class. Just make sure that you're in photography. The reason I'm saying that is because what tools we have available here are different depending on the workspace. So over here on the top right, make sure to head down to this workspace. And if not, I'll help you with that a bit after class. Right now, I want to move on to have everyone do this. But so these choices that we have here on the top left, after the move tool, which remember is the one that I always recommend heading back to as the home tool. Then you have a whole series of selection tools. So this is a selection tool. It's called the marquee tool. The rectangle, the rectangle marquee tool, which if you hold and press down your mouse for a little bit, there's actually two types. There's the rectangular and the elliptical marquee tool. That allows us to make selections of things. And so I'm going to click and drag and I'm going to make a selection. And as you can see, I have a little bunch of dots that are outlining an area. It's very hard to, I'm going to go over here where it's black so you can see the dots a bit better. This is an area that, I mean, it's very hard we ever have anything that's exactly rectangular to select in a photograph because, you know, that's not how photos work. There's always some kind of perspective going on. So this is it's helpful, but it's not an ideal tool. But every time I click and drag, notice that the first selection disappears. So I'm going to just use this little area here only to show you this because it's the only part where you're really seeing my selection. As I show these things, please do them as well. So you click and you drag and the next selection that you do, the first one disappears, right? So what if you actually wanted to select that and this at the same time? So what you need to do now is hold down the Shift key. And now you can select something over here as well, and both selections stay. And then I'm going to keep holding down my Shift key and see how my mouse has turned into a little plus sign. When I let go of the Shift key, it's just the crosshairs. But when I hold down the Shift key, there's a plus sign. So that gives me another selection. And if I now were to click and drag across all three, I'm intersecting them. And so now my selection becomes one big chunk of selection. Okay, so click and hold your Shift and select a bit more, and that's how you can modify your selection to add to your selection. Does that make sense, you guys? Is everyone adding a little bit to their selection? Okay. Now, if I were to just click without holding down the Shift, what's going to happen? Boom, it's all going to disappear again. Okay, so the only way to get this to hold together is to hold down the Shift to add to that selection. Now, within this, notice that I'm never clicking inside of it. If I were to click inside of it right now and move, then I will move my selection. Okay, and so that's different. If I need to shift my selection for some reason somewhere or another, that's fine. But in order to keep adding to it, I need to move my mouse outside of it, hold down the Shift, and then add to my selection. All right. Now, how about if I did not want that last little bit? If I want to get rid of some of this selection, well, then I hold down my Option for the Mac people or Alt for the PC people. And for those of us on VDI, Isabel, I know you're on a Mac, but you're basically on a PC when you're in VDI. So for you and I, it's still the Option or Alt key is the same one. If you look at the Mac key, it says Option and Alt. Hold down the Option or Alt key and now see how it turned into a little minus? That little minus means that now I can take something away. So I'm going to draw a little rectangle here and let go. And I've taken that little bit away. I'm going to draw a little rectangle here, holding down the Option or Alt key, and now I've taken that chunk away. Okay, so I can start it from inside and do like that and take a chunk away. I can even make a little hole in my selection by giving a little thing like that. Okay, and then if I click without holding the Alt or Option key, I'm back to getting rid of my selection. Okay, so I want everyone to select and add a couple things to your selection. And then I want you to hold down your Option key and get rid of a little bit of stuff from your selection until maybe you even get rid of all of it. And then you click and Shift and you add a bit again. All right, let me know if there's any questions about that. Being able to do selections correctly is pretty crucial to Photoshop. This, of course, we're not selecting anything in particular. We're just learning how to use the tool. But it's going to come in handy because once Photoshop gives us a general selection, then we have to modify it to make it a better selection. And for that, we're going to need to know to use this Shift to add to the selection and Option Alt to delete from a selection, to take away from a selection. Okay. Any questions? Anyone for whom it's not working? Nope. Okay. Now I'm going to click one more time to get rid of that selection and just show you temporarily the elliptical marquee tool is the exact same tool. We're just going to do it 1 or 2 times, only it gives me an oval of some kind. So when I let go of my selection, I get an oval instead. If I hold down the Shift, I get 2 ovals. If I go down, I can make 3 ovals. I can connect them. So it works exactly the same way. If I now hold down the Option key, I can get rid of a piece and bite a little chunk out of the selection. I can take out the middle and make a little donut and so on and so forth. Sometimes we spend a bit more time with selections right now. I just want you to get an idea of how to add and take away from the selections because we're going to be using some of the more automatic selection tools right now. And then when we get to modify it, we'll just remember a little bit of this adding and deleting from a selection. Okay. Now, I'm going to click again to get rid of that selection. And the next tool is the lasso tool. And this one is got 3 versions underneath: the regular lasso tool, polygonal, and the magnetic lasso tool. So we're going to do a little bit of that. We're going to hit the regular magnetic lasso tool. And this one basically allows you to select something that you just draw. And remember to take it to the end and finish up your selection. If you just do this and let go, the selection, boom, runs to the beginning to find its entrance point, so to say. Okay, so if you want to direct where it ends, instead of having it do just that, then you need to kind of continue all the way till the beginning, and that's where it connects. Okay, and if you hold down the Shift key, again, you can add to that selection by, same as before, making a new little circle, but notice that I make little circles. Now this tool is the one that we're going to use the most when we have to modify a selection, the lasso tool, where we need to grab 1 or 2 errant pixels. We might end up using this tool a lot. Hold down the Option key and I can now draw a little circle around that chunk and get rid of it, or around this chunk and get rid of that, or around this chunk and get rid of that. Okay. I'm going to I'm having an issue here with my mouse. It's jumping up. As you can see, it's not easy to draw well with a mouse or with a pad, if those of you who have it, a mouse or a pad. So I actually use a pen as my mouse for Photoshop, for Illustrator, for all this kind of thing. So what I'm moving right now is my pen, and it makes it much easier to do a good job than before, where I was kind of clunkily moving around with my mouse. So just as a reminder that if you're going to want to do a lot of this seriously, selecting and things like that, it's a great tool to have. I can tell you more about Wacom tablets. All right, so now imagine if you were to try to select this circle here, it would be impossible with your hand. Like no matter how good of a tool you have, you just, you can't do that well. So there's other tools available that are automatic, but just so you know, there's a couple more in here. I'm not gonna have us explain a bunch of them, but the polygonal lasso tool helps us do straight lines, and this one is the second one of the 3 tools. The polygonal lasso tool will only do straight lines. So if I click here, it suddenly seems to have like a little spider web. It just doesn't, I clicked one time and now I have this thing pulling out. Now I have to click again and that stops it. And then I click again and that stops it there. And then I click again and then I click again. And then when I'm done, if that's what I wanted to select, now I have to go click at the very beginning again, and boom, there I've selected perfectly straight lines. Whenever you're done with a selection, in this case, I've been just clicking away and it disappears. But with this tool, if you click again to click away, well, you've started a new one, right? So it kind of becomes harder to click away on this. So if you want to get rid of a selection, the shortcut that you need to learn, instead of clicking away, which is never very safe, is Control or Command D. So Control or Command D if you're on a Mac, Control D if you're on a PC, gets rid of your selection. For those of you who don't like shortcuts and want to know the menu up here under Select, you go to Select and Deselect, which as you can see says Control or Command D, and that deselects. Now this is the perfect tool if I were to want to select this bottom area right there. I can make a straight line. And then I come here and I go, ooh, not such a perfect tool for that, but I can select and make a perfect selection of that little corner. So although I've made perfect selections of this squareness part of it, it hasn't been able to do this curve, right? So how do we handle that kind of thing? Control D to get rid of the selection. By the way, with the elliptical tool, we could have done the circle. There's other use for the magnetolasso tool. There's a bunch of other tools, but I'm going to actually jump straight now into the, by the way, hard click this thing and go back to the regular lasso tool to have that be the one that stays as our main tool. Let's go to the automatic selection tools. There's much more we can do with these other guys, but I just wanted to give you a brief vision of them because that's what we're going to use to modify the selection after we use the automatic selections that Photoshop provides. So instead of having to start from 0 selections, we're going to use one of these 3 or this one here, Select Subject. So there's 4 automatic selection tools: Object Selection, Quick Selection, Magic Wand tool. Those are 3. Or once you click on any one of these, whichever one of these that you click on, you also get a choice to select subject. Okay, so that's like a 4th selection tool that's not here under tools. It appears in the bar. So if you have any other thing chosen, it doesn't select. But when you click any of these 3, Quick Selection tool, Object Selection, or Magic Wand tool, then see how Select Subject appears over there, or Quick Selection, Select Subject appears over there, or Object Selection, Select Subject appears over there. Okay, so that's our 4th selection tool. And I don't know why they don't have it here as a 4th one. Maybe they didn't want to, put so many choices here. But these are our 4 where Photoshop uses some criteria of another to select something for us. Now, click on any one of them. I don't care which right now, because the one I want us to use is the Select Subject, which is on all 3 of them, right? So it won't matter which one of these 3 you choose. Let's go and see how Photoshop does in selecting the subject. This is a very, very simple background. Let's click on Select Subject and let's see what Photoshop will do. And this is artificial intelligence, Photoshop using whatever its parameters are to make a choice. And there you go. I am seeing an active, this is called, we call them marching ants, an active selection around my clock. So that Select Subject choice worked pretty well, wouldn't you say, on this clock? Well, remember that you can never see things in Photoshop very well until you go, what's that? What did I tell you about zooming in and out? What's that magic number that you need to see things at to make sure that they're good at? What's that number?
And 0?
No, it's 100%, and it's Command what? Command or Control?
0.
Nope, that's back in screen. So what's Command and Control? 100% is Command and Control 1. Yeah, Command or Control 1. So hold down the Command or the Control key if you're in a PC or in a Mac, and then tap the 1 at the same time. Okay, like hold down the Control key, keep it held down, and then tap the 1. Otherwise, this is when people get problems with transparency. Okay, so here we are. We are at 100%. Down here it says 100%. Now we can look at the selection and go, was it a good selection? Because before that, it always looks good from afar. Now I'm going to hold down. What do I do to inspect this whole area? What tool should I hold down to inspect the bottom and the top of this? This is review
move-
from last time. Yes,
The
Peggy is
move
saying
tool?
this.
Space
Nope.
bar.
Space bar, Peggy said that, and so is Ed. Yeah, hold down your space bar and your mouse turns into a hand. And now you click and you drag and we start checking out our selection and all the edges look good, except for, oops, look what got missed. That teensy little thingy got missed right there. Let's see the rest of the selection. I'm holding the space bar, looking all around, looks pretty good everywhere, looks pretty good everywhere. I think the only place where that select subject didn't work out was right here in this little handle, what's it called? Little knobby thingy at the very bottom. Okay, not bad, but this is what I mean. When Photoshop does something and then you need to modify it, the tools to then add this little bit to the selection are going to be these little guys that I just showed you. You're either going to have to choose the marquee, elliptical, or rectangular tool, or you're going to have to choose the lasso tool or the magnetic or the, these ones that are over here to modify and include this little bit into your selection. Does that make sense? Now, before we do that ourselves, let's do again in the controller command 0 that Matt was mentioning. That is actually the see everything again. Let's get rid of the selection and try another of the automatic tools to see if it does a better job and captures that knob. Let's see. So how did we deselect? What was the way to get rid of the selection right now? We had to do what? Yeah,
Command.
Peggy knows them all. Command or Control D.
D.
And yeah, Matt does too. You guys are getting good at your shortcuts. I know Anne knows everything. She just doesn't speak a lot, but she knows everything too. Right? Okay, so Command or Control D. And now let's try, instead of the select subject, object selection, which is of click and hold all these three. It's the top one. Object selection allows us to point Photoshop towards what we want. Now, again, it's not hard in this image to know what we want. It would be harder in an image, but pointing it, how do we point it? We draw a square around what we want. So, or a rectangle around what we want. So we have to consider that we have to start above and to the left of whatever it is that we want. So a little bit higher than what we want and a little bit further to the left than what we want. I'm going to click and drag and make a box around what I want. And I'm going to include that little knob and let's see if this does a better job. So once I find that I've selected the entire thing that I want and let go, let's see now, Photoshop is analyzing it and let's see if it includes the knob. And what do you guys think? Did it include the knob?
No, in fact, it did a worse job.
Yeah, Control or Command 1, hold down spacebar, drag down, and you are right, it did a worse job. That said, it's not that object selection does a worse job than select subject always. It just means that for this photo, it did worse. You should always test all the different options because depending on the image, one will work better than the other. And in this case, it's not because one tool is better than another. You need to just test your different options. And in this case, yes, it did a worse job. It left that little kind of blemish that exists there and the knob out and some other stuff out. So as you can see, however intelligent, even with what seems like a simple image, however intelligent the Adobe selection tools are, there's always room for us to have to fix it or change it or make it better. Let's try the next one. So Control or Command D to get rid of this selection. The next one that we're going to try and use is the quick selection tool. Quick selection tool. Okay, so the quick selection tool is going to look different according to how you used it last. So I am showing a pretty biggish circle here. Depending if you've never used this before, you might see a bigger circle or a smaller circle, or you might see just a little dot. And it depends on how big you've used it last. And what this means is this tool can grow or become smaller because this is considered a brush. A brush is something that we can change its size, and we can change the size of this brush. For now, if this is the brush you have, that's fine. That's what we need. But notice up here, there will be a number. Mine says 500. That's how big my brush is. And I'm going to show you many other ways to change sizes of brushes and stuff. But for now, if your brush is much smaller than 500 or much bigger than 500, click on this little number. And then over here, you can move a slider and you can make it like a tiny brush. You see 50 pixels. Or if you make it much bigger, then it becomes this humongous circle, which we don't want either. So I'll show you shortcuts for this, but for now, I just want us to have a brush that's, 500 is about right. And again, it's not about a number, it's just a general circle. So that's good enough. Okay. So once you don't need this anymore, you can click again on that same number and it turns on and off just by clicking on it. On, off, on, off. Okay. So let's get rid of it. And if you're about at yay size, it does not matter how exact it is. All this means is that this is how many pixels this brush is encompassing. Remember I showed you the pixels last week? That means that in my case, now I left it at 451. This is as big as lengthwise, the radius is 450, the diameter is 450 pixels wide. Okay, so how this tool works is that it looks at an image as if it were black and white, which is pretty appropriate because this image is black and white. And it looks at an image and it sees where there are distinct lines that could be the edge of an object. So it does not know that this is a clock, that this is anything. All it knows that there's an edge. And with this tool, you should always choose that thing that is the easiest to choose. So for me, looking at this, I think the easiest thing to choose is not the clock, but the background, because the background is all even, right? So I'm going to choose the background in this case, and then I can invert that selection. So I'm going to just start by clicking right there one time. And notice, I don't know if you can tell, but my selection kind of includes about half of this whole page. A lot of stuff got selected. Do you see that? I mean, again, depending on where you click, you might have just a little area or a big area. It all depends. But in my case, about half of my page got selected. And notice that it seems to have found to stop at that little knob. Now, this is the only selection tool that if I want to add to the selection, I don't have to press the shift. This one comes automatically with a plus in the middle. So I'm going to click on this side now again, and it's going to add to that selection. And now the whole other side got added. And let's go and see what happened in the bottom. And it ignored the little knob once again. That little knob is not being caught by the Adobe Illustrator, Adobe AI, Adobe Artificial Intelligence tools, is it? You see that? Now, depending on, I'm going to control Command D to get rid of selection to show you why I chose the background and not the clock. If I were to have chosen the clock, and I'm going to click somewhere in here, it would have had to be chosen. So now it shows that whole part of it. Then I would have to go and choose the edges and choose more of the edges and choose some of this stuff and choose some of that. It would have been harder to get a good selection. But I want you guys to test it out because I want you guys to understand that what matters with this tool is that you cannot touch anything with a circle that you don't want. So watch, if I want to select in here this and I click, it's gonna run until it finds an edge, and see how there it found an edge, there it found an edge, there it found an edge, and it stopped right there. Now, if I wanna click and include this and I click here, since I'm clicking some black and some white, it's probably gonna select the whole thing internally. Now I'm left with the problem of how to select that rim. And here's where it matters. You cannot click here, because if you click here, your circle is also grabbing background. Does that make sense? If I were to click here, I'm going to choose some background, and that's a mess. So you need to make sure to check only the things that the circle touches. So in this case, I'm going to put my mouse kind of at the rim and click again. And now it figured out to touch some of the rim, and it went all the way up to here. And there it changed enough that it stopped. Now this is when modifying the size of your mouse is really good. So the quick way to modify the size of your mouse right now, There's other ways, other shortcuts, but the quickest way is to look at your keyboard and find the square brackets. The square bracket keys, which no one ever uses much, are the ways to modify your mouse. And if you can't find them, look at the letter P, and there you'll see on the right of the letter P, that's where you see your square brackets. It's the open bracket and close bracket. So I'm going to hit the open bracket, the closed bracket, and my mouse is getting bigger, see? And then my closed bracket in my mouse is getting much smaller. See that? So each time I click, 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 I make it bigger or smaller. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, whoops, that was me looking up when I was talking to you. So I did something else. So now that I've made it a bit smaller, I can go in and just click on different edges, but you don't need to touch the edge and maybe go over it. You just need to be near the color. And as you can see how much harder it is to select this clock than it was to select the background. It took many, many clicks to do that. Does that make sense? Which is why I first said, hey, you always have to select what's the easiest to select. And in this case, it was much easier to select the background instead of the foreground. Okay. Command and control. No. Now, one thing that this tool might provide us, though, is a way to select for that teensy little tip. Let's see. Let's go Control plus, 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 and I'm going to go space bar and drag over there. Then I'm going to do Control plus, 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 get really big and space bar and Control until I see just this little guy that's missing. And it's okay if your whole clock isn't well selected right now, even if you have nothing selected. Let's see if with this tool we can choose that little knob before we actually outline it by hand. Let's try this tool. So as you can see, my tool has to get much smaller. So I'm going to go minus, 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 minus on the little, the bracket till it gets really tiny, because I don't want a tool where it's bigger than this or it won't work, right? It has to be smaller, 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 smaller. And now that it's smaller, let's see if I click in here, if Photoshop begins to recognize it. And I'm going to do little clicks and a little click over there and a little click over there. And I'm going to get my mouse even smaller for the little tip and another little click over there. And yeah, that kind of works. And I think, oh, I need to choose this stuff because it's also the shine. So basically with this tool, without having to outline it by myself, with tiny little clicks and a tiny little mouse, I was able to get that little knob. Did that work for everyone? Let me know if it's not working for you or if you need help with this little selection. All right. So
Diana,
then we're going to practice this again in a second. Sí, Gustavo, yes.
yo tengo problemas.
Voy a parar y mi cosa y mostrarme el tuyo. So Gustavo is
Okay.
going to share his screen because he needs a hand. And this is what everyone, if you've never shared your screen, you have to learn to share your screen because this is how I can help you best. Okay, so right now you have more of a selection because somehow you touched the background. So the first thing, I'm going to use this to teach you guys. He can fix everything and start over from the beginning. Not fix, start from the beginning. Or in this case, you can also just undo a couple of steps until you get to the place where maybe you went wrong. So to undo something, the shortcut would be Control or Command and hold those down and then type the letter Z. So go ahead and type the letter Z one time and let's see where it ends you up. So hold down the, you're on a VDI. So hold down the Control key and then tap the letter Z for zebra, la zeta.
Okay.
Okay, and tap it one time and then tap it again and tap it again. Tap it enough times to see if your stuff kind of, each time you do one tap of Z, it's one undo. Can you do the tap, hold down the Control key and then tap Z, Z, Z a few times to see if maybe that selection gets up closer? And if it's not, then that's fine. Sometimes that doesn't work if you've left the undos way behind.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to be there.
Because
head
I'm
over
still doing-
instead. So instead, head over to the history tool. And the history tool is up at, yeah, one down, no, yeah. You can close that from that little double-headed arrow, go back to the double-headed arrow a little bit higher and close that again. Yeah, it's easier to just click on the little tool. So go down just to the first little icon. Yeah. Oh, one up, that one. That's the history icon. Muy bien, Cecily. Okay. And now this little window that shows up is a whole set of what's the last thing you did in backwards order, right? So if you go to the very, very bottom of this, you can see the last thing you did, which is all those quick selections. So now start clicking above, like click on the one above and that one up. Yeah, click on that one, click there, click. Okay, and there you go. Now we've gotten to a place where you had a good selection and now you've undone all the steps in between. Hi, Marie, how are you?
Good. Are you on one of the pictures from the folder?
Yeah, give me a second or go
Okay.
find the one. It's the very, very first one. It has the number 663, and then it's a clock. It's the very, very
Okay,
first one.
Found it. No, found it.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, so now, Gustavo, now let's go to your tool
Mhm.
and let's, yeah, okay, tool. So now let's put your mouse and let's see how big it is. Put your mouse over the knob. That's fine, leave that there. And move the mouse, móvelo ahora a esta zona. Okay, so, oh, you're not in the right tool, are you?
I'm not?
No, you are. You're
Okay.
on the right tool. Okay, so how come it's not showing as a circle though?
No, it's like a tiny, tiny, tiny brush.
Yeah, so make it bigger. Let's go up, make it with
Okay.
your arrow, make it much bigger to see if it turns into a circle or not. And move it into
Okay.
the, yeah,
the same.
so do you have your caps lock turned on right now?
I don't know.
Let's see, go change your tool and no, it's not about a caps lock.
Where I need to go? Size.
Yeah, go to your, okay, go to your keyboard.
Okay.
Y fíjate en tu keyboard, si tenés apretado el caps lock, que es lo que está arriba de shift, que es para hacer la mayúscula.
No,
¿Tenés eso
no,
apretado? No.
No.
Okay, so here's the problem. By not seeing the size of your tool, you have no idea if you can fit into the size of that knob. You know what I mean? Just so you know, my tool is 5 pixels big in order to fit right now in there. So maybe you should go up to where it says 155 and move that up to 5 pixels. So go up to the tool again, donde está el número, el círculo redondo de 155. Aprieta ahí. Yeah. And then move it down to just 5 pixels or just right 5 pixels. It's very tiny. Yeah. Yeah. Let's say that's fine. 8 pixels. That's a bit too small. Go to a bit more.
Okay.
That's about right. Yeah.
Okay.
And now go into your knob and start clicking on that without touching the outsides. So now touch just the middle of it and drag your mouse a little bit across that. Don't touch the white in the background. No toques nada de lo que es más blanco. Y ahora click and drag. So arrastra en la zona que querés la elección. So what I'm telling him is to just click and drag in the area that he wants his choice. And then let go. See, now you touched too much. You touched some of the white background. See? So now go Command Z and undo that. Undo the last step. No, just Control and Command Z. Yeah. And now go and just gently drag only in the darker parts. Yeah. So, and then drag that area. Yeah. And then drag that. Now, you must have a setting on your Photoshop, not letting you see the icon that you need to see. So I'm going to have to change your preferences, I think, because does anyone else have the problem he has where you're just seeing the tool shape instead of the tool size? I think it's a Photoshop preference that you can do it. Let me go for a second to the cursors. I'm checking on here on the left. Yeah, I'm going to have to lead Gustavo into changing his tool preferences. Gustavo, I'm going to say it in Spanish to make it a bit faster, but you guys can see what he's doing and do it the same. Andate a la palabra edit arriba de todo.
Okay.
Edit, so where it says file edit. Ahí, edit. Ok, y abajo de todo, andate bien hasta el fondo y scroll down porque hay más detrás de esa. Hay preferences. Muy bien, y ahora en preferences, andate a la palabra cursors, cursores. So por la mitad, somewhere in the middle, there's the, oh, no, you were fine. Preference, go back to preferences. Yeah, and then go up to cursors, which is somewhere in the middle. Cursor, está ahí, una, dos más, ahí, perfecto. Standard, say normal tip brush. So at the very, normal tip brush. Normal brush tip.
Okay.
Okay, y ahora decí okay. Decirle okay a la derecha, ya está, okay to the whole box. So at the top right, a la,
Tengo un problema con el mouse. Es el mouse. Está
okay. Entonces decirle okay, return or enter. Si apretas el return or enter de tu keyboard, también es decirle okay.
Okay, enter.
Okay, let's see your mouse now. Let's see if now you're seeing a circle. Move your mouse. Let's find your mouse. Let's see if we got a circle. Yay, we have a circle now. Okay, so now you can see your circle. De nada. Entonces ahora que lo ves, ponelo encima de la forma. See how that little weird, that he had the icon shape. Now you can see and now you can see your mouse where it's touching. Okay. All right. I'll stop your share.
Thank you, Diana.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. Marie, we're just working on different selection methods, and I was trying to teaching one last selection method. Any other questions before we actually go back? Let's delete this and let's do the best selection that we can. So how do we delete this? Let's do Control or Command D. So any selection that you already have, undo. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do Control or Command 0 so we see the whole thing again. And now let's do our final selection because we want to move this clock into the other image. So we need to select it. But instead of telling you what to do, remember the way I teach, I want to teach you a tool, but I want you guys to know how to use it when I'm not around. So if I tell you always what to do, then you don't know how to use it when I'm not around. So after all of the tools that you just tested, you've tested all the automatic tools that you've tested. We've tested the select subject, and then we tested the object selection and the quick selection. The only one I haven't shown you yet is the Magic Wand tool because this one operates based on color. And we're running out of time, and I'll show this one to you next time. And I'm not going to say because there's no color here, because there's black or white, which in this case would still work. But of the three that you saw, quick selection, object selection, or select subject, which one did you think did the best job to start with?
Select subject.
It seems that select subject gave us the best choice. I think you're right, Ed. Does people agree with that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, remember, this one is a very easy to tell where the subject is. In an image like this one, like this one, it might have been harder, right? To figure out what's the select subject if you're just a computer. But in this case, it worked. So everyone, clear out your other selection. We're going to do a select subject, and then we're going to use the tools of the quick select that we just did to add that little knob to that selection. And that's going to be the best way to automate this selection. So let's go over here to, once you've cleared out the selection that you have, if you don't remember how to do it, either select, deselect, or click Control or Command D. Now let's all click select subject, and let's get the best automatic selection that we can get. Now, we've already kind of inspected all the edges, and I think that this is the best one. Now we need to add that little knob, and I think there was a little bit missing here on the bottom right. So let's go ahead and do Control or Command plus to approach and hold the space bar and move our way to this little knob. And here's what I was saying, that the knob is missing, but I think a little bit of it can also be fixed over there. So how are we going to do this? I think this can be fixed with the same tool that we just used. And I think this might have to be by using the lasso tool. Since we haven't used the lasso tool, let's give that one a quick try. I'm gonna go to the lasso tool, and this is the tool of last resort, so to say, because this is where you have to draw. And remember, if I were to click now and do something else, what happened to the first selection? It disappeared. So I'm gonna Control or Command Z, which is undo my last thing. That little click disappeared. I don't want my selection to disappear. So what do I need to press to add a little bit of selection here? I need to make sure, yes.
Hold down the
someone-
shift.
Thank you, Matt. The shift key. So hold down the shift key first. Make sure you have the shift key set up, held down all the time. And then we're gonna just add a teensy little circle there to add, just by drawing it in, a little bit of what seems to be missing, which is just a little bit more of that edge. Okay, now that's fine. You can do that with a mouse, but it's hard to draw a perfect little knob with your mouse. So that we kind of added with the mouse. Now let's, if you have any questions, if that didn't work for you, let me know. But I basically held down the shift key and just drew a little bit. Now, if you did something like that and it went kind of crazy, then your two choices are undo it immediately. If you just did it wrong, Control or Command Z, and that gets it. But say that you did it wrong and then you tried to fix it, which I never recommend fixing it, but in this case, a fix would be to hold the Option key and then kind of do a little circle around what went wrong, and then that kind of fixes it as well. I always recommend redoing more than fixing, but anyway, just wanted to show you plan A and plan B. Okay, so that kind of adds a little bit of what was missing here on the end. And now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Again, Control or Command plus. I'm going to go over here, and now I'm going to choose the quick selection tool. And I'm going to make it really small. Okay. And I'm going to head over here, and this is the only tool that you don't need to press a plus sign for. And I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to begin to add, and I can drag a little bit or add this little knob so that it kind of gets added to the selection. And
You could little
the
girl.
oh, are you talking to your kitty cat, Marie? All right. And then we can add this little white bit to it. And hopefully by the time we're done with this, we've got a pretty good selection of this clock, which at first glance seemed like a very easy piece to select, but it had its tiny little intricacies, didn't it?
Yeah.
Once you kind of have this selection taken care of, we can go ahead. And if you need to, if some of this isn't working completely, you can switch back to the lasso tool. Like I wanted a little bit more there. I'm going to hold down the shift, and I can then just make, round that tip a little bit better. So, the more comfortable you get with your tools and with your mouse and stuff like that, you can add little things that are missing here and there or not. But that's definitely good enough at this point for what I need. Okay. Any questions? When you're done and you're happy with your selection, Control or Command 0, and now we have a complete selection of our clock. Okay, anyone who needs help to get your complete selection of your clock? No?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, Barbara?
I lost my question. Yeah. Can you make your zoom in on the bottom of your clock a minute? I think
so.
I have a shadow added to the bottom right of the clock, not the clock. Oh, you had that added too. Okay.
Yeah, well, I just kind of added that little bit, which seemed like that. But if you have any other thing added, you can always use the lasso tool to hold the Option key. I'm not sure if this little bit was clock or not. If I'm not sure and I don't want it, I can hold down the Option key and say, maybe I shouldn't get this little bit because it doesn't look like clock. And I can just get rid of that little bit right there again. It was a bit of a shadowy thing. I think that's probably more accurate than having it in. So you can go back and get rid of it, your choice. I wasn't sure if that was a shadow or not, so I added it. I just
had
wanted the
another-
experience of adding it. Yeah.
I had another question. What are you using, a Wacom pen, or I noticed the Apple Store has a pen.
Yeah, so right now I'm using a Wacom pen. Just because we're only a few minutes away from finishing the class, let's finish this assignment.
Okay.
And then we can talk about pens. All right, so has everyone got their selection right now? For better or for worse, doesn't need to be perfect, but you got a selection. There's different other things we can do to make it more, softer, feathered, whatnot. Right now, I'm not going to do any more to this. Let's go back to the move tool, because we can actually do some other stuff to make this even a better selection. But for now, just all we going to do is just copy. Okay. And a good way to copy this, for those of you who are in shortcuts, Control or Command C. If you don't do shortcuts, you can go up to Edit and Copy. So we're copying these pixels from this image. Now let's head over to the the green cup of water. And now, actually, anyway, resolution is going to play a big part in how well this cuts in here or not, but we're going to talk about that later. Head over to the green cup of water. And now we're going to say paste, which is either Command or Control
Deanna,
V.
which picture is that?
This is the, green cup water. But you know what? Open anything, Marie, and paste it into anything, because at this
Green
point,
cup of water.
it doesn't matter. And so paste,
Okay, got it.
Control or Command V, or just paste. Are you sure you want to convert colors to the destination? We're not going to even deal with the color profiles right now. Let's just say okay to this, because I'll explain that later. Say okay. And here it is. Now we have a clock. And if you click and drag, you'll see that it's floating on top of the cup of water. And if you look over here at the layers, we have layer 1 is a clock, and the bottom layer is the cup of water. Now, just to, and again, this isn't something that makes sense. This is just more to teach you selecting and to selecting and layering. But hold on for a second, Barb.
Okay.
I want to make sure that the whole thing came in. So if I look at it like this, it's hard to tell. I'm going to scroll up a bit, and there's my little knob. The easiest thing is to just see one layer at a time. So I'm going to turn these little eyeballs on and off. So if I turn this one off, I don't see the clock anymore. See that little eyeball? Click, and then it turns on. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom eyeball and turn this eyeball off. And what I see is the clock on what's considered nothing. In Photoshop, this is nothingness. This is emptiness. And if I click and drag up, there's my clock with its perfect little knob. It's looking great. I brought everything exactly as it should have. And if you want to make sure, you can zoom in to see if it looks good. Now you notice that it's bigger than this image. That has the resolution. We'll talk about that later. I want us to save this image. We can name the layers, etc. But right now, I just want us to save it to make sure that we have it saved. And then anyone who for now is done, you can leave, because the class is over after we save it. And then those of you who have questions or who need help, Barb and anyone else who has questions, hang on there and I'll answer your questions. So let's go up to File and say Save. If we say Save, actually, the green cup of water is going to have this clock floating in the middle. If you want the green cup of water separate, you can save as and save as compositive cup and water. I'm just going to save it right now. I'm just going to say a regular save, and that'll save to wherever you had saved it to start with. Okay. And then for people who need to leave right now, all you need to do is just close out the file. If you're at home, close your Photoshop. If you're on VDI and a leave to read right now, I want to back you out of VDI correctly. But I'm going to hang out here and answer questions, and then we're going to move forward with all of these skills that we're learning and begin to create some more interesting images next week. So for those of you who are going to leave now, goodbye. And for those of you who want to stay for questions and answers, then, oh, that's true, Ed. Have a great trip, hopefully smoke-free, and then I'll see you when you come back.
Thank you.
Marianne, everything's moving.
All right. So Barbara, you had a question that I said I would answer now. So what's your question?
I go to move the clock and the background also moves.
All right. So can you, oh, I don't know. Do you know how to share your screen yet? If not, I'll show you how to share your screen because sharing your screen is something you're going to have to do a lot so that I can see what's happening. So let me teach you.
Okay.
Are you, first of all, you're on a Mac, right? Yes, you just told me you have
Two
many
Macs, yeah.
Two Macs. So when you share your screen, you're going to have to give it permission. So you need to read out to me what shows up and I'll tell you what to click on before it'll be ready to share. So head down to the big green button that says share screen on the place where you are working with Photoshop, on the computer that your Photoshop is on.
Okay,
Head
share
down.
screen is gonna be.
Okay. On Zoom. So go to your Zoom again, last time where you found the chat button and the mute button, that same place where you found those buttons, there's a big green share screen button. Once you click on
I
it,
pressed that movie
yeah.
projector and now you're in the middle of my screen.
Okay, so each one of these, it's going to be 5 or 6 steps. Okay, so first of all, did you find the big green screen share screen button? Did you see it?
Oh, yes, right there.
Okay, all right, so press that one first of all. Okay, once you press that one, you have another window there that's probably saying something like system preference, security. What's it saying?
Open system preferences.
Yes. Okay. Say okay to that.
Okay.
Now, in your system preferences that opened up, you have to go to the bottom left of it and unlock it. Put in your password. So click on the little lock.
System preferences did not open.
Well, then it should. And if it didn't,
Well, maybe it's behind this.
it might be.
No, I've got that one, and then I've got.
Go to your dock and see if system preferences can be selected from your dock to open it up from there. I'll be with you in a minute, Isabel.
Oh, what color is it? Ah, gray gear.
Okay.
I
Are you in your?
Nothing happened.
What do you mean nothing happened? Didn't system preferences
Okay,
open up?
security and privacy, it opened up behind
Yes.
some.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good. Now, on the bottom left of that little system preference window, there's a lock. You need to click on that and put in your computer password.
Oh.
Tell
Unlock.
me when you're done. Cool. Now go to in this privacy and security, there's a little check mark next to the word Zoom that you need to check.
Okay.
Cool. Now you're
Quit and
done.
reopen. No.
Later.
Record the contents later.
Just
Okay.
say later. Okay. So now go back to Zoom and click the share screen button again, and this time it's going to work.
Down on the dock.
Now go back to your Zoom and hit
The one on the
big old-
dock.
Not on the dock, back to Zoom. Go back to Zoom. Where the one where you had the big green share screen button. Okay, and you might need to minimize
I
some
don't
other
know how to
things.
get there.
Go ahead and do you see me talking somewhere?
Oh, yeah, it's in this one. I'm sorry. They're right here.
That's fine.
Share
There you
screen.
go. Cool. And now there's one more button on the bottom right that says share in white letters. Bottom right, move your mouse, your head to the other side. Yep, there we go. Perfect. You're sharing your screen. Okay, so tell me what you mean by that things are both moving. Okay, stop. You're not in the move tool. You're in the lasso tool. So to go to the move tool, you need to go.
Oh, I
to the
thought
very
all I
top.
had to do was hold the space bar down.
No, actually the space bar, good point. Space bar moves your view of something when your view is bigger than the screen. But in this case, your whole window, you're seeing the whole window. So what you need to do to see the bottom of the clock is to actually move the clock itself. So there you go. Move that up.
Okay. I haven't
No.
touched Photoshop or Lightroom, anything for almost a year.
Oh, there you go. You're fine now. So
It's
move
like
it
I'm
up
brand
so that
new.
you can see that. I know, but hey, no, you're doing great. I can tell. No, you're not brand new. You know your way around. You just need to be reminded. You're doing great. Okay, so now you can move this up until you see the bottom of your clock. Okay. All right. So just kind of select your clock. Put your mouse over your clock. No, not do that.
Oh, okay. I want to do
You're not, yeah.
this.
And
Oh,
no, that moves your whole window. No, yes, there you go. Now you see the whole bottom of your clock with a little knob there, see? You see it now? It's
Got
easier to
it.
put it. Perfect.
Great.
And that's moving your clock inside and outside.
Thank
All right, just
you.
save it and we'll keep working later. No, perfect.
Okay, I
And
just
now-
want to do save, not a save as.
No, just do a save because we've already saved as this one. So just do a save, file save,
Save.
and it'll stay. And then you can, where will come. The good news, Barb, now we're ready because we've set up for sharing. So next time you have a question, it's easy to share. And we did it outside of
Oh, it's a whole
so
week.
It's all good. It's a whole week.
I'm
This
gonna
class
have
is
to
a
practice,
once a week.
or I will forget
Yeah.
all of this.
The good news is, and you missed out on this, so all this class has been recorded and last week's been recorded, so you can, as opposed to when you used to come
Wonderful.
to school, is that you can watch the recordings. So hang on a little bit, and I'm going to help Isabel and other people with their questions, then I can show you how to get to the recordings, because actually, if you watch the recording of the first week, I show you how to get to recordings, but you don't know how to get to the recordings because you didn't watch the first one, so.
It's not in my email.
Oh, the last email that I sent last Friday, at the end of the day, I sent an email with the link to the recording of last week's class. And then when you watch that, you'll learn a lot about how to get to the handouts and all that kind of stuff. That said.
Oh, I thank you for all those handouts. I was in there printing them up.
Okay, good.
I'm such a PC person. And I don't even have a PC now. Everything's, all the PCs
that's
are
good.
broke. So now I'm a Mac
Well,
person.
That's good. Well, you should join my Mac classes then, but let me help
I
you
have,
Isabel and everyone
I'm in
else.
them.
Oh, you're set in them.
Yeah,
Okay,
I gotta
great.
wait for them to start.
I know. All
I
right, Isabel, you've
sold
been waiting.
antiques and grandfather clocks and all kinds of stuff to get this. I have a 27-inch iMac.
Wonderful. Good
It's
job.
huge.
I'm sorry you had to sell things for it, but I'm glad you had it.
Oh, I
Okay,
sold
let-
it to
let-
my daughter.
Barbara,
I
let
wasn't
me help
gonna-
other people who've been
Okay,
waiting and then we
thank
can
you.
chat. You're welcome. Okay, Isabel?
So something happened in the middle of the class and I didn't want to stop you, so I just messed everything up. But I keep watching your class and I can rewatch the
Oh.
video and do it step by step.
Okay.
My question is that
Let me stop you there for a minute. I'll get to your question, but Isabel, of course, after 10 minutes have gone by, 20 minutes have gone by, it's hard, it's too late. But whenever something weird happens like that, if you tell me immediately, I can usually fix it for you in a minute, and then you can follow the whole class. So everyone can wait for a minute while I help you. I know you're being nice, you don't want to interrupt, but you've missed out on half a class, and I really don't want that to happen, Isabel. So please promise me that whenever there's some other thing like that, big deal where suddenly it's all gone, I can usually fix it for you within a minute or two. So just promise you'll tell me
I'll
in the
promise
future.
I'll
Yeah?
do it next time. But this happened because my internet was slow and crazy, so
Yeah.
I didn't want to do anything. Like if I have to close everything, I have to get out
Yeah.
so soon, and I'll miss everything. So I was like,
I
and
got
then
it. I got it. I
too
got it.
late.
Yeah. I'm sorry that was happening to you. Okay, so what's your question now?
So I couldn't find. I mean, I tried to get back to it, but I couldn't. It's like, let me show my
Yeah, show me your screen and let me see if I can help you.
So it was so crazy because I couldn't, like, I log out and I try login again, and then I didn't show me the one that we did. So
Okay.
it got
You have the
only these
cup.
two, and I
Mhm.
tried to do what you started to teach us, but it's like, oh no, something happened, and then I stopped. I just
Yeah.
stopped and
No,
started watching your video.
that's fine. That's fine. Now notice that all that happened here you got some weird stuff going on this one, but that's not important right now. What matters is that what's missing is the clock, right? So
Yes, that was the problem.
file
because I
closed
couldn't
down,
find-
yeah.
and I couldn't open it
So-
from and it
So
got all
that's
messed
what's
up.
it.
I was like,
So what happened is that the downloads is you had to go to the bridge, which you did, and what's missing is that you don't have the images. So let's go. And what happened here, if you notice at the left side, is you don't have your Google Drive. So
yeah.
click on this PC. Click
Uh,
on this PC. Yeah. And that's where you see your Google Drive. See your third choice.
oh, okay, so that's
Now-
what I couldn't find.
Mhm.
My
And
I was
then,
looking for that. I
share-
was like,
not
but
there. No, not there, not there, not there. Go back one. The files are in shared drives. You put yours in my drive, but the ones from me are in shared drive. There you go.
Okay,
You
okay,
know
that's
what?
what I wanted to.
Now stop 1 second. I'm going to show you a trick. Grab, don't double click, but single click the first folder, the download photos. That first folder. And now see on the left where it says drag favorites here, grab that folder and just drag it to the left. Just drag it out. Click and drag. Now left, the other side, the other way. Yeah, there, and let go. Cool. So now hopefully when you start this computer up again, you'll just have that folder there. If it remembers you next time, click on that folder and then it'll take you straight to the photos. I hope this gets remembered. Now, as long as you have your Google Drive set up, this should stay. And next week, when you practice, it should be here to get you there directly.
Another question. I went to your link that you sent for the first class, and I went in on Friday night. Wait, was it Friday night? I think it was on Saturday morning. I don't remember when, but I went in and then I was trying to do it, but then something came up and then I left. But when I tried to look in it again, I couldn't find it. I was like, I couldn't find it in my email. So could you send me the first class or how to get to the first class?
Okay. Sure, I'll send this the email. You mean for the recordings?
Yes, I want to you like Barbara said, practice and practice, but I couldn't because I couldn't find the class.
That's fine. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Remember that you can always email me and say, hey, I can't find it. Right?
I'm sorry, I didn't want to bother you.
No,
So I was like, oh
no, but that's my job. That's my job. So I totally get that you're trying to be really nice, but yeah, just ask me and I might not answer immediately, but in a few hours or the next day, I'll get back to you with the links.
I'll do that,
okay?
promise. I'll do that now.
So I'll do that now. And
Okay,
because
start with
Barbara
some-
doesn't have them either, I'll go ahead and send to both of you. I'll send you the recordings for the first week. And in that recording, Barbara, in that email, I have Barbara, are you hearing me?
I'm here.
So in the email that I'm going to send you, I have links not only to the first class recording, but also I have videos showing you how to get to the handouts and how to get to the recordings so that I don't send all the recordings every week. I send the first one and after that you have to go find it yourself in the same place that you have the handouts that you said you found. Notice that one of those handouts is called Zoom class recordings. And every week I will put the recording for the day in that link. Okay, so you guys, you'll get that information. I'll send it right now.
The recording before the class or the recording of the class?
Of the class. So this whole class has been recorded. So
Great.
this entire class has been recorded. So you can practice everything from the first week and from the second week. You have a whole week to view the recording and thus to practice again selection and undos and
This is
everything
almost
we've been
better than
practicing.
being in class.
The recordings are make all the difference. Yeah, people really like the recordings. So yeah.
Because I took the Bruce's Lightroom class. I'm totally lost. I've got to go back and
Yeah.
watch the recordings and read the printouts and.
Mhm. Yeah, the
So now
recordings
that if
really
I
make the
wanna-
difference.
So now if I want to close everything down and open a new tab to start over, should I close it from
Yeah,
here?
so now you should, first of all, close, it's better if you actually close Bridge and Photoshop first, right? But so go to Bridge, you can go up here and go to the top X, to the right. Two more to the right. No, this is, you're a Mac person, so you're pressing.
That's
but
right.
you have
Because
to
I
go-
forgot that's my part. That
So go to that little X that's on the top right of this, right where you were, but to the right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
having a little bit of problem.
There, that one. No, that's fine. Okay, click on that
Close
one.
it and then
Okay,
close
and
this
then
one too.
close Photoshop. Yeah, close Photoshop. No, actually, it's not from there. Oh, save changes. No, we didn't do anything to that. So say no, don't
No,
save
yeah.
changes to that one.
So no.
And say no, that way those things disappear. And then close the Photoshop. Good. Now go to that place where you were
Now
before and close that little guy. And now go up to system. Yeah, perfect. and say preferences, and then go, maybe you can go straight. Let me see if you can go straight to the gears. I don't think so, but just try go to the gears first before you say Google Drive, just to make sure. Yeah, you can go straight there, and they say disconnect account.
Oh, disconnected here?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh,
So you disconnect.
okay.
That's it. And then when you sign in again, you go in there and now it'll be great, because when you open up, there you go. This time it'll find like that.
It will be I didn't do anything for today. That will be a new start, right? That's what I want.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's what I want. I will
Yeah.
file the class again. If I get stuck, I promise I will mail you to tell you what my mistakes again, because I like make a lot of mistakes. I don't want to do anything. And you guys, somebody help me. I didn't want to.
No problem.
You know, you focus on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
class,
yeah.
and I didn't want
That's
Um,
great. That's great. Still,
But
next time, ask me, tell me what's happening, because if it's a big deal, we'll just go, okay, you can follow the video. But if it's something that you think is a big deal, but I can fix quickly, then I can get you on track. Okay? Let
Okay.
me decide if it's like, oh, Isabel, yeah, just watch the video, or, Isabel, here, do this, there you go. Let me decide.
okay, that would be like I would say
Okay.
a question, or you'll tell me at the end of the class I can teach you or I
Yeah.
can help you. That will be
Yeah,
better for
we'll
me.
do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
One more
so-
question before you hang up.
Yes, Barbara. Mhm.
I have this brand new computer, and I wanted to do a backup. And you gonna cover Time Machine? Should I wait, or should I try to figure Time Machine out myself?
I will cover it, but I'll cover it in the last few weeks of class. So
Then I should
November,
probably-
so September, so we'll have September, October, and November before we get to that. So, if you have an extra hard drive out there, you can just plug it in, and the computer, if it's new, it'll tell you, do you want to use this as a time machine? And you should say yes, and that's all that's going to happen.
I'm gonna have to format it. I have gosh, I've got 3, from taking
You've got
classes
3,
at City
okay.
College.
Okay.
So I'll format it, and I'll read about it. I have
If you format it, then once you plug it in, your computer, since it's new, it'll just say once you reformat it and plug it in, the first thing it'll unplug it after you format it, plug it in again, it'll go, do you want to use it as a time machine? And you'll go, yep. And that's all you need to do. Just as long as it's
cool.
newly formatted, unplug it, replug it in, and it should just ask you if it can be used. So it should be as simple as
Okay.
that. If it's
But
not
I
as
have an
simple as
older
that, ask me
MacBook.
next week. Mhm.
Mac, this one?
I'm gonna stop the recording, because this is it for Photoshop.
Okay.
That way I'm gonna stop the recording because I don't want to. Bye, everyone. See you next week.